Hello and thank you for joining for tonight's stories. I hope you enjoy. The Shadow at Black Pines Ranch. A novel of terror. Chapter 1. The Old Man and the Dog. Harlan Dunn sat on his porch at dusk, watching the sun bleed out behind the Wallowa Mountains, and he knew that something was wrong with the world. It wasn't the silence, though that was part of it. The silence was deeper than it should be, heavier, a blanket of nothing that smothered the usual sounds of evening. No crickets, no frogs, no wind in the pines that gave his ranch its name, just the creak of his rocking chair and the rasp of his own breathing and the occasional clink of ice in his glass as he raised his whiskey to lips that had tasted too much of it over 63 years. No, the silence was bad, but it wasn't the worst part. The worst part was Rex. Rex was 12 years old, a cattle-dog mix with more gray than brown in his coat and more loyalty than sense in his heart. He'd been Harlan's shadow since he was a pup, following him through calving season and branding, and the long winters when the snow piled up to the eaves, and the only company was the crackle of the wood stove and the howl of wolves that seemed closer every year. Rex wasn't afraid of anything. He'd faced down coyotes, chased off black bears, stood his ground against a mountain lion that had come down from the high country during the drought of '09. He was a good dog, the best dog, the only friend Harlan had left in a world that had taken everything else. But tonight Rex was afraid. He'd been lying at Harlan's feet, dozing in the last warmth of the day, when suddenly his head came up. His ears flattened. His hackles rose in a ridge along his spine that Harlan could feel rather than see in the fading light. "What is it, boy?" Harlan asked, setting down his glass. "Coyotes." Rex didn't answer. He was staring at the tree line, at the dark wall of pines that marked the boundary of Harlan's property. His lips peeled back from his teeth, and a growl started low in his throat, not the warning bark he gave to strangers, but something deeper, something primal. Harlan followed his gaze. The pines were motionless, black against the purple sky. Nothing moved, nothing breathed, but Rex kept growling, his body trembling, his claws digging into the porch boards. "Easy, boy, easy." Harlan reached down to pat the dog's head, but Rex snapped at him. Not a bite, never a bite, but a warning: "Stay back. Don't touch me, something's coming." "Rex!" The dog bolted. One moment he was on the porch, the next he was gone, a brown streak vanishing into the barn. Harlan heard him scratching at the floor, trying to burrow under the hay, trying to hide from something that only he could sense. Harlan stood up, his knees protesting, his hand going to the rifle he kept by the door. He scanned the tree line again, his old eyes straining against the darkness. Nothing, just the pines, silent and still. "Just coyotes," he muttered to himself. "Just coyotes, you old fool. Dogs getting senile, you're getting senile." But he didn't believe it. He'd lived on this land for 40 years, raised cattle and horses and a son who died in a war halfway around the world, buried a wife who'd wasted away from cancer in the bedroom just through that door. He knew every sound, every shadow, every smell of this place, and he'd never heard the world go this quiet. He sat back down, picked up his glass, took a long drink of whiskey that burned going down and didn't warm him at all. The sun disappeared. The stars came out dim and distant. The moon rose, fat and orange, hanging over the mountains like a warning. And the silence continued. Harlan finished his drink, poured another. He thought about going inside, about locking the doors and windows, about pretending that everything was normal. But he was an old man, and old men don't scare easy, and he'd be damned if he'd let some strange silence chase him into his own house like a frightened child. So he sat, and he waited, and he watched the tree line where something was watching back. He didn't see it move. He didn't hear it approach. But sometime after midnight, when the whiskey was gone and the cold had settled into his bones, he felt it. A presence, a weight. Something standing just beyond the reach of his porch light, just inside the shadows of the pines. He couldn't see it, but he knew it was there. "Who's there?" he called, his voice cracking. "Show yourself." Nothing, just the silence, deeper now, pressing against his eardrums like water pressure. "I got a gun." He raised the rifle, though he couldn't see a target. "I ain't afraid to use it." A sound answered, not a voice, something else. A rustle maybe, a footstep, the snap of a twig that shouldn't have snapped. Then from the barn, Rex howled. A sound of pure terror, of absolute despair, the kind of sound a dog makes when it smells something that shouldn't exist in the world of the living. The presence vanished. The silence broke suddenly like a bubble bursting. Crickets started chirping. Wind moved through the pines. The world resumed its normal rhythms as if nothing had happened. But Harlan knew he knew. Something had come to Black Pines Ranch. And it was hungry. He found the first body at dawn. He'd slept in his chair, unwilling to go inside, unwilling to turn his back on the darkness. When the sun rose, pink and gold over the mountains, he woke with a crick in his neck and a headache that felt like his skull was splitting open. Rex was still in the barn, curled in a ball under the hay, trembling. Harlan coaxed him out with soft words and softer hands, and the dog emerged slowly, ears flat, tail tucked, eyes darting to every shadow. "It's okay, boy, it's daylight. Whatever it was, it's gone now." Rex didn't believe him. Harlan didn't believe himself. He made coffee, strong and black, the way he'd learned to drink it in the army, back when he'd been young and stupid and thought war was glory. He stood on the porch with the mug in his hands, watching the morning mist burn off the pasture, and he tried to convince himself that last night had been a dream, a hallucination, the product of too much whiskey and too little sleep. Then he saw the crows. They were gathered at the far end of the north pasture, a black cloud of them, cawing and fighting and tearing at something on the ground. Harlan set down his coffee and grabbed his rifle and walked out to see what had drawn them. He found number 42. She was one of his best Angus cows, 3 years old, heavy with calf. She'd been grazing near the tree line yesterday evening, fat and content, her bell full of the grass that grew thick in the spring rains. Now she was dead. Not just dead, unmade. Harlan had seen predator kills before. Coyotes mostly, sometimes a cougar. They were messy affairs, blood, guts, the occasional limb torn off in the frenzy of feeding. Nature was red in tooth and claw, and Harlan had made his peace with that long ago. But this wasn't nature. Number 42 had been opened. Not ripped, not torn, opened. Her ribcage was splayed like the wings of a butterfly, each bone carefully separated from its neighbors, arranged in a pattern that looked almost deliberate. Her organs were gone, removed with surgical precision, leaving the cavity empty and clean. Her skin had been peeled back from the muscle in long strips, like someone had been trying to understand how she worked, how she was put together. And her head was turned completely around, facing backward, her eyes open and staring at the sky, her mouth frozen in an expression that might have been surprise. Harlan bent over and vomited in the grass. When he was done, he wiped his mouth and looked at the body again, trying to understand what he was seeing, the precision of it, the care. This wasn't an animal kill. Animals don't arrange bones in patterns. Animals don't peel skin like fruit. "What the hell?" he whispered. "What the hell did this?" He circled the body, his boots squelching in blood that had pooled and congealed overnight. The ground was torn up around the cow, but not in the way of a struggle. More like something had danced around her. Something with claws that had left marks in the dirt, marks that were too large, too deep, too wrong. He measured one with his hand, 6 inches across. 5 toes, or maybe 6, arranged in a pattern that looked almost human but wasn't. The arch was twisted, bent at an angle that no human foot could achieve. And the claws, long curved like a bear's but more delicate, more precise. "Bear," he muttered. "No bear did this. No bear ever did this." He looked at the tree line. The pines were still now, innocent, but he could feel them watching. could feel something in them, behind them, waiting for night to fall again. He needed help. He needed to call the sheriff, the vet, someone who could tell him what he was looking at. But when he pulled out his phone, he saw that he had no signal, no bars, no service. That was wrong too. He always had signal here, always. The cell tower on Wallowa Peak was line of sight, reliable, constant. But not today. Today the phone was dead. The world was silent, and something was watching him from the trees. He walked back to the house, his rifle ready, Rex pressed against his leg. The dog hadn't stopped trembling. He kept looking back at the pasture, back at the dead cow, back at the tree line where the darkness waited. "It's okay, boy," Harlan lied. "We'll get help, we'll figure this out." But he didn't know how, and he didn't know if help would come in time. Sheriff Tom Culver arrived at noon, his cruiser kicking up dust on the long gravel drive that led to Harlan's house. He was a heavy man, 50 years old, with a face that had seen too much of Eastern Oregon's particular brand of rural desperation. Meth labs, domestic disputes, the occasional body found in a field after a hard winter. He wasn't prepared for this. "Jesus Christ, Harlan," he said, standing over the remains of number 42. "What the hell happened here?" "I was hoping you could tell me." Culver knelt, his knees popping, and examined the body with the practiced eye of a man who'd seen his share of dead things. But this was different. This was wrong. "This ain't natural," he said. This ain't anything I've seen before." "I know. You said you heard something last night." "Didn't hear anything, that's the thing. The world went quiet, dead quiet, and Rex, my dog, he freaked out, hid in the barn, wouldn't come out till morning." "And you didn't see anything?" "I felt something watching from the trees." Harlan pointed at the pine line. "But I didn't see it, didn't hear it, just felt it." Culver stood up, wiping his hands on his pants even though he hadn't touched anything. "I need to call this in, get the state boys involved, maybe fish and wildlife. This is beyond me, Harlan, way beyond." "Phone's dead." "What?" "No signal, hasn't been all morning." Culver pulled out his own phone, checked it, frowned. "That's weird. I had 4 bars on the way up." "Check again." He did, his face went pale. "Nothing, dead as a doornail." "It's not just the phone," Harlan said. "It's everything, the silence, the way Rex acted, the way that cow was killed. Something's wrong here, Tom. Something's been wrong since last night." Culver looked at the tree line, at the mountains, at the sky that was too blue, too clear, too empty. "You got any other cattle out there?" "100 head, scattered across 300 acres. We need to bring them in, get them close to the house. Whatever did this, it might come back." "It'll come back," Harlan said. "I know it will tonight." "Then we need to be ready." Culver put his hand on his holster, on the service weapon he hadn't drawn in years. "You got any more guns?" "Rifle by the door, shotgun in the bedroom, 30-06 in the truck." "Good, we'll need them all." They spent the afternoon gathering the herd, riding Harlan's old gelding through the pastures, calling the cattle in with shouts and whistles and the occasional crack of a whip. The animals were skittish, reluctant to move, bunching together in ways that suggested fear. They could smell it too. Whatever was out there, the cattle knew. By evening they had 70 head in the corral near the barn. The rest were too far out, too scattered, too spooked to approach. Harlan would lose them to the predator, whatever it was. He knew that, accepted it. What he couldn't accept was the waiting. They sat on the porch as the sun went down, 2 old men with guns in their laps, watching the tree line where the darkness gathered. Culver had brought a bottle of bourbon from his cruiser, and they passed it back and forth, not speaking, just waiting. "You ever hear stories?" Harlan asked, his voice rough. "About this area, old stories." "What kind of stories?" "Indian stories, about things that live in the woods, things that wear skins." Culver was quiet for a moment. Then, You talking about skinwalkers? I don't know what I'm talking about, I just know. Harlan paused, searching for words. I know that what killed my cow wasn't an animal, and I know that what I felt last night wasn't natural, and I know that there's something in those trees that's been here longer than us, longer than the ranch, maybe longer than the mountains. Skinwalkers are Navajo, Culver said. We're in Shoshone territory, different traditions, different things. But you've heard the stories. I've heard stories. Culver took a long drink of bourbon. My grandmother was Shoshone. She used to tell me about the stick people, the ones who live in the shadows, the ones who wear the skins of animals and men. And you believe them. I believe there's things in this world we don't understand, things that science can't explain. He looked at Harlan, his eyes serious. But I also believe that most of those things are just animals being animals. Bears, cougars, wolves, maybe a wolverine, though we haven't seen one in these parts for 50 years. A wolverine didn't do that to number 42. No, Culver stood up, stretched his back. No, it didn't. They waited, the sun set, the stars came out. The moon rose, smaller tonight, a silver crescent that cast barely enough light to see by. And the silence returned. It started gradually. The crickets stopped first, one by one, until the night was empty of their song. Then the wind died, the pines going still, the air becoming heavy and thick. Finally, even the cattle in the corral went quiet, their lowing and shuffling ceasing as if someone had flipped a switch. It's happening again, Harlan whispered. I know, Culver raised his rifle, scanning the darkness. I feel it too. Rex growled, low, deep, from somewhere in the barn where he'd hidden himself again. The sound was muffled, terrified. Rex knows, Harlan said. He always knows. What do? We wait, we watch, and when it comes, we kill it. They didn't have long to wait. It came from the cornfield. Harlan had planted sweet corn in the small plot between the house and the tree line, a summer treat that he'd been looking forward to for months. Now the stalks were tall and green, rustling in a wind that shouldn't exist, moving in patterns that suggested something walking through them. There, Culver whispered, pointing. Harlan saw it, a shape crouched low, moving between the rows, too tall for a coyote, too thin for a bear, too wrong for anything that should exist. Flashlight, Harlan said. Culver handed him the heavy maglite he kept in his cruiser. Harlan clicked it on, aimed the beam at the cornfield. The light caught the creature mid-step, and both men gasped. It was humanoid. That much was clear. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. But the proportions were wrong, too long, too thin, the limbs stretched like taffy. It was covered in something that might have been fur or might have been skin, patchwork and mottled, hanging loose in places, stretched tight in others. And the face, God, the face. It was almost human, almost, but the eyes were wrong, too large, reflecting the flashlight beam like a cat's, yellow and vertical. The mouth was too wide, stretching from ear to ear, filled with teeth that were too many and too sharp. The nose was just holes, black and flaring, sniffing the air. It saw them, it saw the light, and it smiled. Jesus, Culver breathed, Jesus Christ. The creature opened its mouth and screamed. The sound was like nails on slate, like metal tearing, like the shriek of a dying rabbit amplified 1,000 times. It hurt to hear. It hurt to be near. Then it moved. Fast, so fast. One moment it was in the cornfield, the next it was at the edge of the porch, claws extended, mouth open, eyes blazing with hunger and hate. Harlan fired. The rifle bucked against his shoulder, the sound deafening in the silence. The creature staggered, hit in the chest, black blood spraying across the porch boards, but it didn't fall. It didn't die. It laughed. The sound was worse than the scream. It was human, almost, a cackle, a giggle, the laughter of a child who'd found something amusing in the suffering of others. Run, Harlan said. They ran. through the house, slamming doors behind them, locking windows, turning on every light they could find. But the lights flickered, dimmed, went out one by one as if something was feeding on the electricity itself. "The bedroom," Harlan shouted. "The shotgun." They barricaded themselves in Harlan's bedroom, the heavy oak door shuddering as something slammed against it from the outside. Culver grabbed the shotgun from the closet, loaded it with trembling hands, aimed it at the door. "What is that thing?" he panted. "What the hell is that thing?" "I told you," Harlan said. "I told you it wasn't natural." "You didn't say it was. You didn't say it was." "I didn't know." Harlan pressed his ear to the door, listening. The pounding had stopped. The silence had returned, deeper than before, more absolute. "I think it's gone." "Gone where?" "Hunting." They waited. Minutes passed. Hours. The moon crossed the sky, casting shadows through the window that moved like fingers, like claws, like the reaching hands of something that wanted to pull them into the dark. Dawn came slowly, reluctantly, as if the sun itself was afraid to rise over Black Pines Ranch. When the light finally came, they emerged from the bedroom to find the house untouched. No broken windows, no forced doors. The creature had left them alone, had chosen not to pursue them into their sanctuary. But it had been busy. In the corral, 3 more cattle were dead, killed the same way as number 42, opened, arranged, displayed. Their heads turned backward, their eyes staring at the sky. And on the porch, written in blood that was still wet, was a message. "More." "It's not done," Harlan said, his voice hollow. "It's just getting started." Culver didn't answer. He was staring at the tree line, at the pines that seemed closer now, as if they'd moved in the night. "I need to go," he said. "What?" "I need to go, get help. The state police, the FBI, someone who knows how to deal with whatever this is. You can't leave me here alone." "I have to. The phone's dead. The radio in my cruiser is dead. The only way to get help is to drive out." "It'll kill you. If you go out there, it'll kill you." "Maybe." Culver turned to look at him, and Harlan saw the fear in his eyes, real and raw. "But if I stay, it'll kill us both. And then it'll keep killing. Your neighbors, the town, everyone. Then we both go." "No, someone has to stay. Someone has to watch, to know if it follows." "Tom." "I'm sorry, Harlan. I'm sorry I can't stay. I'm sorry I'm not braver." He walked to his cruiser, his steps heavy, his shoulders slumped. "I'll be back with help, I promise." He drove away, the cruiser kicking up dust that hung in the air like smoke. Harlan watched him go, knowing he wouldn't return, knowing that the road out was as dangerous as the ranch itself. He was alone now, alone with Rex, who wouldn't come out of the barn, alone with the dead cattle and the blood message and the thing in the trees. He sat on the porch and waited for night to fall. And he prayed, for the first time in 40 years, that he would survive to see the dawn. Chapter 2: The Elder's Warning. Culver didn't come back. Harlan waited all day, sitting on the porch with his rifle across his knees, watching the road where the sheriff's cruiser had disappeared. The sun crossed the sky. The shadows lengthened. The silence deepened. But no cruiser, no help, no Culver. By evening, Harlan knew. He knew the way old ranchers know things, by the feel of the air, by the behavior of animals, by the prickle on the back of the neck that says danger is near. Culver was dead, or worse than dead. Harlan didn't go looking for him. He didn't call out on the dead phone or drive his own truck down the road. He just sat and waited and prepared for the night he knew was coming. He'd spent the day fortifying the house, boarded the windows, barred the doors, moved the remaining cattle to the far pasture, away from the house, hoping that fresh meat would distract the creature from its true target. Him. He knew that now. The creature wasn't just hunting cattle, it was hunting him, playing with him. The message on the porch proved it. The The way it had smiled at him, laughed at him, let him live when it could have killed him easily. It wanted him to suffer, wanted him to fear, wanted him to understand that he was prey, that his land was no longer his, that the world had changed and he hadn't changed with it. He thought about leaving, packing a bag, loading Rex in the truck, driving until he hit the interstate, the city, anywhere with lights and people and the illusion of safety. But he couldn't. This was his land, his home, the place where he'd buried his wife, raised his son, lived his life. He wouldn't be driven out by something that wore a stolen skin and smiled with too many teeth. He would fight or he would die, but he wouldn't run. The sun set, the stars came out, the moon rose, a thin crescent that offered no comfort. And the silence returned. This time Harlan was ready. He sat in the living room, all the lights on, the shotgun in his hands, the rifle by his side. Rex was with him, finally emerged from the barn, pressed against his leg, trembling but present. "Good boy," Harlan whispered, scratching the dog's ears. "Good boy, we got this. We can handle whatever comes." Rex whined. He didn't believe it either. The first sign came at midnight, a scratching on the roof. Not loud, not aggressive, just a gentle scrape like claws testing the shingles looking for a way in. Harlan looked up. The ceiling was solid wood, beams and plaster. The creature couldn't get through, could it? The scratching moved, from the roof to the walls, down the side of the house, around to the front. Then it stopped. Silence absolute, complete. Harlan held his breath. Rex stopped trembling, went rigid, every muscle locked in place. A voice came from outside, from the porch, from the darkness. "Harlan." It was his voice, his own voice, speaking his own name with his own accent and cadence, and the slight rasp that came from 60 years of cigarettes and whiskey. "Harlan, come out." Harlan didn't answer. He gripped the shotgun tighter, his knuckles white. "I know you're in there. I can smell you. I can smell your fear." The voice laughed, and it was Harlan's laugh, the one he used when something was funny but not too funny. "Such a coward, hiding in your house like a frightened child." "Go to hell," Harlan shouted, his voice cracking. "I've been there. It's nice this time of year." The voice moved, circling the house. "Your friend Culver is there now. He sends his regards. He died screaming, Harlan, screaming your name." "You're lying." "Am I?" The voice was closer now, right outside the window. "I can show you. I can let you hear him. Would you like that?" "No." "Too bad." The scream that followed was Culver's. Harlan knew it, recognized it, would hear it in his nightmares for the rest of his life. It was the scream of a man being torn apart, being unmade, being opened like a cow in a field. It went on for a long time. When it stopped, Harlan was crying, tears streaming down his face, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold the shotgun. "He tasted good," the voice said. "A little tough, a little bitter, but good." "I'll kill you," Harlan whispered. "I swear to God I'll kill you." "God can't help you here, Harlan. God doesn't come to places like this." The voice moved away, fading into the distance. "But I know someone who can, someone who understands these things, someone who knows how to bind them." "What?" "Joe Red Clay, the old Navajo. He lives in the hills above the river. He knows about skinwalkers. He knows how to stop them." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to try." The voice was distant now, almost lost in the silence. "I want you to think you have a chance. I want you to hope, because hope tastes better than despair, Harlan, and I'm very, very hungry." Then it was gone. The silence broke. The crickets resumed. The world returned to normal as if nothing had happened. But everything had happened. And Harlan knew that if he stayed, if he waited, if he tried to fight this thing alone, he would die. Culver had died. The cattle had died. He would die. Unless he found help. He waited until dawn, until the sun was high enough to burn away the shadows. Then he loaded Rex in the truck, grabbed his rifle and drove. Joe Red Clay lived in a cabin that wasn't on any map, at the end of a dirt track that hadn't been maintained in decades. Harlan had heard of him. Everyone in eastern Oregon had, but he'd never met him. Never had reason to. Joe was Navajo, born on the reservation in Arizona, moved north decades ago for reasons no one knew. He was a medicine man, some said. A witch, others whispered. A crazy old man who talked to spirits and carved strange symbols in trees. Harlan didn't believe in medicine men, didn't believe in witches, but he believed in what he'd seen. And he believed that if anyone could help him, it was Joe Red Clay. He found the cabin by accident, almost driving past it. It was small, weathered, half hidden by trees, but the clearing around it was what caught his attention. Every tree was carved, every single one. Symbols covered the bark, spirals, jagged lines, shapes that hurt to look at. They weren't graffiti. They weren't art. They were wards, protections, barriers against something that wanted in. Harlan stopped the truck. Rex growled, low and deep, staring at the cabin with ears flat. "I know, boy, I feel it too." He got out, his rifle ready, and approached the cabin. The door opened before he could knock. Joe Red Clay was ancient, 80, maybe 90, his face a roadmap of wrinkles and scars, his eyes black and sharp and knowing. He wore denim and flannel like any rancher, but his neck was hung with turquoise and silver, charms and talismans that clicked softly as he moved. "I know why you're here," Joe said. His voice was gravel and smoke. "I felt it last night, the thing at your ranch. It called out. It wanted me to know." "Can you help me?" Joe studied him, those black eyes seeing too much. "You saw it." "I saw it." "And you lived." "It let me live. It wants to play with me, to make me suffer." "Yes." Joe stepped aside, gestured into the cabin. "Come in, but leave the dog outside. He won't like what he smells in here." Harlan hesitated. "Rex stays with me." "Then you both stay outside." Joe's voice hardened. "I don't invite animals into my home, not anymore." Harlan looked at Rex, at the fear in his dog's eyes. "Stay, boy, guard the truck." Rex whined but obeyed, curling up in the truck bed, his eyes never leaving the cabin. The interior was dark, lit only by oil lamps and the glow of a wood stove. The walls were covered with hides, deer, elk, bear, and others Harlan didn't recognize. Feathers hung from the ceiling. Bones were arranged in patterns on shelves. The air smelled of sage and cedar and something else, something old and powerful. "Sit," Joe said, gesturing to a chair. Harlan sat. The chair was hard, uncomfortable, carved from wood that felt alive beneath him. "Tell me," Joe commanded. Harlan told him everything, the silence, the dead cattle, the creature in the cornfield, Culver's death, the voice on the roof, everything. When he finished, Joe was silent for a long time. Then he stood and went to a chest in the corner, opened it, pulled out something wrapped in cloth. "Skinwalker," he said, unwrapping the object. "You know this word." "I've heard it." "Most people have. They think it's a monster, a boogeyman, something to scare children." He revealed what he'd unwrapped, a mask carved from wood, painted with symbols that seemed to move in the lamplight. "But it's not a monster, it's a person, a witch, someone who learned the old ways, the forbidden ways, and used them to become something else. The thing I saw wasn't human. It was once, long ago, before it put on the skin of a beast, before it learned to wear the shapes of the dead." Joe held up the mask. "This is what they become, empty, hollow, always hungry, always hunting." "How do I stop it?" "You don't." Joe set the mask down, fixed Harlan with those black eyes. "You can't kill a skinwalker, you can't destroy it. The only thing you can do is bind it, trap it, keep it from hunting." "How?" Joe went to the wall, took down a hide that Harlan hadn't noticed before. It was white, bleached, covered in symbols drawn in what looked like ash. "These are the signs," Joe said. "The marks that bind. You must carve them into the trees around your property. Create a circle of protection. The skinwalker cannot cross the line. And if it does, then you die. Joe's voice was flat. The signs are strong, but they are not absolute. If the skinwalker is powerful enough, if it is fed enough, learned enough, it can break through. Then what good are they? They buy you time, they give you space, they let you live another day. Joe rolled up the hide, handed it to Harlan. But there is a price. What price? The skinwalker knows you now. It has your scent, your voice, your fear. It will not stop hunting you, not ever. Even if you bind it, trap it, keep it from your land, it will wait. It is patient. It has been patient for centuries. Then what do I do? You survive. Joe went to the door, opened it, let in the daylight. You carve the signs, you protect your land, and you never ever go beyond the line after dark. That's it, that's all. That's all there is. Joe stepped outside, gestured for Harlan to follow. Come, I'll show you how to carve. They spent the afternoon in the clearing, Joe demonstrating the technique, Harlan practicing on dead wood until his hands were blistered and his arms were aching. The symbols were complex, precise, one wrong line rendering them useless. The spiral is the most important, Joe said. It represents the cycle, life, death, rebirth. The skinwalker is trapped in the cycle. It cannot escape. The spiral reminds it of its prison. And the jagged lines. Pain, suffering, the cost of what it has done. Every life it has taken, every skin it has worn, the lines remind it of the weight it carries. Harlan carved until his fingers bled. Joe bandaged them with strips of cloth, nodded approval. You learn fast. I have to. Yes. Joe looked at the sky, at the sun that was already beginning to descend. You must go now. You have much work to do before nightfall. Will you come help me? Joe shook his head. I cannot. My place is here. My duty is to my own land, my own protection. If I leave, I weaken the wards. The skinwalker would sense it. It would come here instead. Then I'm alone. You were always alone, Harlan Dunn. We all are. Joe clasped his shoulder, his grip surprisingly strong. But you have the knowledge now. You have the signs. Use them well. Harlan drove back to the ranch with the hide in his lap and the weight of the world on his shoulders. He had until sunset. 3 hours, maybe 4. He worked fast. The symbols had to be carved into living wood, into the pines that marked the boundary of his property. He started at the north corner, where the creature had first appeared, and worked his way around. Spiral, jagged line, spiral, jagged line. His hands screamed in pain. His arms shook. But he kept working, kept carving, kept creating the circle of protection that Joe had promised would save him. Rex stayed with him, pressed against his leg, whining occasionally but never leaving. The dog seemed to understand, seemed to know that this was important, that this was survival. By the time the sun touched the mountains, Harlan had carved 30 trees. The circle was incomplete, broken in places where the pines were too far apart, but it was there. A boundary, a line in the sand. He stood in the center of his land, looking at the symbols he'd carved, and he felt something. A shift in the air, a lessening of the pressure that had been crushing him since the silence first fell. It was working. The wards were working. He went to the house, barred the doors, sat with Rex in the living room with the shotgun in his lap. He didn't turn on the lights, didn't want to attract attention, just sat in the dark and waited. The silence came as it always did, but this time it was different, lighter, less absolute. And the creature, the skinwalker, did not come. Harlan heard it, though. Heard it moving beyond the tree line, beyond the circle of carved pines. Heard it scratching at the boundary, testing the wards, looking for a way in. But it didn't cross. It couldn't cross. The symbols held. Hours passed. The moon rose. The silence deepened. But the creature stayed beyond the line, frustrated, hungry, denied. Sometime after midnight it spoke. Harlan. Not his voice this time, a woman's voice, Soft, gentle, familiar. "Harlan, it's me, it's Sarah." His wife, his dead wife. The woman he'd buried 5 years ago after the cancer took her. "I miss you, Harlan, I miss you so much. Won't you let me in?" Harlan's hands shook. Tears streamed down his face. He wanted to answer, wanted to believe, wanted more than anything to hear his wife's voice one more time. But he knew what it was. The skinwalker, wearing her voice like a skin, using his grief against him. "No," he whispered, "you're not her, you're not Sarah. I am, my love, I am. I've come back for you, come to me, come across the line." "No. Harlan, please, I'm so cold, so alone, I need you." "No." He fired the shotgun into the air, the sound deafening, the flash illuminating the room for a split second. The voice stopped, the silence returned. But he could feel it, feel the skinwalker's frustration, its hunger, its hate. It wanted him, needed him, and it would keep trying until it got what it wanted. The night passed. Dawn came. Harlan emerged from the house to find the symbols on the trees still intact, still glowing faintly in the morning light. He'd survived, one night, maybe more. But the war wasn't over, it was just beginning. He spent the day completing the circle, carving symbols into every tree within sight of the house. By evening, the boundary was complete, unbroken, strong. The skinwalker came again that night, and the next, and the next. It tried different voices. His mother dead 20 years. His son killed in Afghanistan, Culver screaming for help, Rex whining to be let out. Harlan didn't answer, didn't move, just sat in the dark with his shotgun and his dog and his carved symbols, waiting for the dawn. On the 4th night, the skinwalker stopped speaking, just scratched at the boundary, testing, always testing, looking for weakness. It found none. By the end of the week, Harlan dared to hope. The creature was still out there, still hunting, still hungry, but it couldn't reach him, couldn't cross the line. He was safe for now. But he knew that the skinwalker was patient, that it would wait, that it would watch. And that someday, somehow, the wards would fail. Until then, he would survive. He would endure. He would live in the circle of protection he'd carved, never venturing beyond the line after dark, never letting his guard down. He moved the cattle to the far pasture outside the circle. Let the skinwalker feed on them if it must, better cattle than him. He stocked the house with supplies enough to last months. He repaired the generator, the well pump, the fences. He made himself ready for a siege that might last years. And every day at dawn and dusk he walked the boundary, checked the symbols, made sure they were still strong. They held. But on the 8th night something changed. He was sitting on the porch, watching the sun set when Rex growled. Not the terrified growl of the first night, but something else, something worse. Alertness, recognition. "What is it, boy?" Rex was staring at the tree line, at a specific tree, one of the pines that Harlan had carved that marked the boundary. Harlan followed his gaze, and he saw. The symbol on that tree was different, changed. Where there had been a spiral, there was now a crack, a split in the wood that ran through the center of the symbol, breaking its power. "No," Harlan whispered, "no, no, no." He grabbed his tools, ran to the tree. The crack was fresh, the wood still oozing sap. Something had done this. Something had tested the ward and found a way to weaken it. He carved a new symbol, deeper, stronger. But even as he worked, he heard it. The scratching, the testing. The skinwalker probing the boundary, looking for the next weak point. It was learning, adapting, growing stronger. The war wasn't over. It had just begun. Chapter 3: The Testing. The crack in the ward was a warning. Harlan understood that now. The skinwalker wasn't just testing the boundary, it was studying it, learning how it worked, how it could be broken, how to defeat it. Every night new damage appeared. A symbol scratched away, a line carved through, a spiral broken at its center. The skinwalker was systematic, methodical, patient in a way that terrified Harlan more than any direct attack. It was smarter than he'd thought, more cunning, more powerful. He spent his days repairing the wards, carving new symbols, strengthening the boundary. But he was one old man with blistered hands and failing eyes, and the skinwalker had all the time in the world. By the end of the second week, the circle was full of gaps, weak points where the protection was thin, where the creature could almost push through. Harlan could feel it, feel the pressure against the wards, the weight of the skinwalker's attention. It was watching him, studying him, learning his patterns the same way it learned the symbols. It knew when he slept, when he ate, when he walked the boundary. It knew his routines, his habits, his weaknesses. And it was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He thought about leaving, about packing the truck and driving away and never looking back. But where would he go? The skinwalker had his scent. It would follow. It would hunt him down no matter where he ran. Besides, he was too old to start over, too tired, too stubborn. This was his land, his home. He would defend it or die on it. On the 15th night, the skinwalker changed tactics. It stopped damaging the wards, stopped testing the boundary. Instead, it started appearing. Harlan would be walking the perimeter at dusk, checking the symbols, and he would see it, standing just beyond the tree line, watching. Its patchwork skin hanging loose, its too many teeth visible in a smile, its eyes, those terrible human eyes fixed on him. It didn't attack, didn't try to cross, just watched. Harlan would raise his rifle, aim, fire. The shots would echo through the silence and the creature would vanish, only to reappear somewhere else, still watching, still smiling. It was taunting him, showing him that the wards were weakening, that its patience was paying off, that the end was coming. He emptied his ammunition into the darkness, wasting bullets on shadows, until he had nothing left but the shotgun and a handful of shells. Then the appearances stopped. For 3 days, nothing. No scratching, no testing, no watching. The silence was absolute, the nights empty, the world holding its breath. Harlan knew what it meant. The skinwalker was preparing, building its strength, getting ready for the final push. He prepared too. He boarded up the windows, reinforced the doors, filled every container he could find with water. He cooked all the perishable food, stored it in jars. He made the house into a fortress, a bunker, a last stand. Rex stayed with him, never leaving his side, trembling constantly but refusing to hide. The dog knew. They both knew. On the 19th night it came. The attack started at the weakest point in the ward, the place where the first crack had appeared, where Harlan had repaired it but never fully restored it. The skinwalker hit that spot with everything it had, a concentrated assault that made the air itself scream. Harlan felt it from inside the house, felt the pressure, the vibration, the wrongness of something forcing its way through a barrier that shouldn't be breachable. He grabbed the shotgun and ran to the window, peered through the crack in the boards. The skinwalker was at the boundary, its body pressed against an invisible wall, its claws extended, its mouth open in a silent scream. The symbols on the nearby trees were glowing, burning, smoking from the effort of holding it back. But they were failing. Harlan could see it, could see the ward bending, stretching, thinning. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." He fired through the window, the shotgun blast shattering glass and wood. The skinwalker didn't flinch, didn't even seem to notice. The symbols flared, brighter than the sun, and then they went dark. The ward was broken. The skinwalker stepped across the line, into Harlan's land, into his sanctuary. It turned to look at him, and it smiled. A real smile this time, full of hunger and triumph and something that might have been gratitude. "Thank you," it said, using Culver's voice. "I've been waiting so long." Harlan fired again, but the creature was already moving, already gone, vanished into the shadows between the trees. It was inside the circle, inside his world. And the hunt was on. Harlan barricaded himself in the bedroom, the shotgun in his hands, Rex pressed against his side. He could hear it moving through the house, through the barn, through the very walls, scratching, testing, playing. It didn't attack immediately. It was savoring the moment, drawing out the fear, making the hunt last. Harlan knew he couldn't win. Not now. The wards were broken, the protection gone, the creature loose in his world. He had minutes, maybe hours, before it grew tired of the game and finished him. But he wasn't going to make it easy. He thought about Joe Red Clay, about the old Navajo's words. The signs bind, but they don't destroy. The skinwalker can't be killed, only trapped. But what if he could trap it? What if he could lure it somewhere, seal it in, keep it from escaping? The root cellar, the old storm shelter beneath the house, built by his grandfather 100 years ago. Stone walls, iron door, no windows, one entrance. If he could get the skinwalker down there, lock it in. It was a desperate plan, probably suicidal, but it was the only chance he had. He moved, fast and quiet, leading Rex through the house to the kitchen, to the hatch in the floor that led to the cellar. The skinwalker heard him. Of course it did. It heard everything. "Running, Harlan." It was his wife's voice again, soft and sad. "I thought you were braver than that." Harlan didn't answer. He lifted the hatch, gestured Rex down into the darkness. "Don't go down there, my love. It's dark, it's cold. You won't like what you find." Rex whined, hesitated, then descended into the cellar. Harlan followed, pulling the hatch closed behind him, dropping the heavy iron bar across it. The cellar was small, cramped, filled with jars of preserved food and old tools and the smell of earth. Harlan lit a lantern, the flame casting dancing shadows on the stone walls. "Now what?" he muttered to himself. Now he waited for the skinwalker to find him, to force its way in, to finish what it had started. But the creature didn't come. Instead it laughed, Culver's laugh, harsh and bitter. "You think you can trap me? You think this hole in the ground can hold me?" Harlan didn't answer. He checked his shotgun, counted his shells, 3 left. "I don't need to chase you, Harlan. I can wait. I've waited centuries. I can wait a few more days." The silence returned. The skinwalker was gone, or pretending to be gone, leaving Harlan trapped in his own cellar. He waited, hours passed. The lantern burned low. Rex fell asleep, exhausted, his head on Harlan's lap. Harlan didn't sleep. He couldn't. He sat in the dark and listened to the silence and waited for the end. Dawn came. Light filtered through the cracks in the hatch. Harlan risked lifting it, peering out. The kitchen was empty. The house was silent. The skinwalker was gone. Or was it? He emerged cautiously, shotgun ready, Rex at his heels. The house was untouched, unchanged, exactly as he'd left it. But outside the world had changed. The symbols on the trees were gone. Not broken, not damaged, gone, as if they'd never existed. The bark was smooth, unmarked, innocent. And the cattle in the far pasture, were all dead. Harlan walked through the field in a daze, counting the bodies. 20 head, all opened, all arranged, all staring at the sky with dead eyes. The skinwalker had been busy while he hid in the cellar. It had fed, grown stronger, and now it was gone, vanished, leaving Harlan alone with his dead animals and his broken wards. He understood then, understood what it was doing. It wasn't just hunting him, it was destroying him, piece by piece, taking everything he loved, everything he'd built, everything he was. The cattle were just the beginning. He spent the day repairing what he could, carving new symbols, trying to restore the wards. But his hands were shaking, his strength failing, his hope dwindling. The skinwalker would be back, tonight or tomorrow or next week. It would keep coming until there was nothing left. Unless he stopped it. He thought about Joe Red Clay again, about the old Navajo's knowledge, his power, his wards that had held for decades. Maybe there was something else, something Joe hadn't told him, some secret, some weapon, some way to fight back. He had to try. He loaded Rex in the truck and drove to Joe's cabin, his heart pounding, his hands white on the wheel. The old Navajo had to help him. Had to. But when he arrived, the cabin was empty. Not abandoned, empty. The wards were still in place, the symbols still carved in the trees. But Joe was gone. His tools, his clothes, his medicine bag, all gone. Harlan searched the cabin, desperate, finding nothing but dust and silence. On the table, a single note. I warned you, the skinwalker is patient, it waits, it watches, I cannot help you. No one can, save yourself if you can. Harlan crumpled the note, threw it to the ground. He was alone, truly alone. He drove back to the ranch in a daze, barely seeing the road, barely feeling the wheel in his hands. Rex whined, sensing his despair, but Harlan couldn't comfort him, couldn't comfort himself. He was going to die. Soon. The skinwalker would come for him, and he would die, and no one would ever know what had happened at Black Pines Ranch. Unless he made sure the creature died with him. He spent the afternoon preparing, gathering supplies, making plans. The root cellar, that was the key. If he could lure the skinwalker down there, trap it, and then. He had dynamite, left over from the days when he'd done his own blasting, clearing stumps, digging wells. 10 sticks, old but still potent. If he could get the creature in the cellar, seal it in, and then detonate the dynamite. The explosion would bring down the house. The stone walls would collapse. The skinwalker would be buried under tons of rock and earth. And so would he. It was suicide. There was no way around that, but it was the only way to be sure, the only way to end this. He wrote a note, explained everything. The creature, the wards, Joe read Clay, the plan. He left it on the kitchen table, weighted down with his grandfather's pocket watch. Someone would find it, eventually. When the silence finally lifted, when the world returned to normal, when someone wondered why old Harlan Dunn hadn't been seen in weeks. They would find the note, they would understand. Maybe. He spent the evening with Rex, sitting on the porch, watching the sun set. He scratched the dog's ears, told him stories about the old days, about Sarah and their son and the life they'd built. You've been a good dog, Rex, the best dog. I'm sorry I have to leave you. Rex's whine pressed closer. He knew, he always knew. The silence fell. The stars came out. The moon rose full and bright, casting silver light across the ranch. And the skinwalker came. It walked across the pasture, slow and deliberate, its patchwork skin gleaming in the moonlight. It was bigger now, stronger, fed on 20 head of cattle and the fear of an old man. It stopped at the edge of the yard, where the wards had once been, and smiled. Harlan, it said, using his own voice, I've missed you. Harlan stood up, the shotgun in his hands. I've been waiting for you. I know, I can smell your plan, your desperation, your hope. The creature tilted its head, bird-like. You think you can trap me. You think you can kill me. I know I can. No. It stepped closer, crossing the invisible line where the ward had been. You can't kill what isn't alive. You can't trap what doesn't obey your laws. I am beyond you, Harlan. Beyond your weapons, your wards, your pitiful human courage. Then why are you talking? Harlan raised the shotgun. Why don't you just kill me? Because I enjoy this. Another step closer. Because your fear is delicious. Because your hope, your desperate little hope, makes the feast so much sweeter. I'm not afraid of you. Liar. The creature was in the yard now, 10 feet away, close enough that Harlan could smell it, the rot, the copper, the ancient hunger. I can taste your fear. It's all you have left. Then taste this. Harlan fired. The blast caught the skinwalker in the chest, knocking it back, sending it sprawling in the dirt. Black blood sprayed across the grass. But it didn't die. It didn't even slow down. It stood up, laughing, the wound already closing, the blood already stopping. Is that all? It advanced, claws extended. Is that your best? Harlan fired again, and again. The skinwalker kept coming. When the shotgun was empty, Harlan threw it aside and ran. Toward the house, toward the cellar, toward the trap he'd prepared. The creature followed, unhurried, savoring the chase. Run, Harlan, run, make me work for it. Harlan burst through the kitchen door, slammed it shut, threw the bolt. The skinwalker hit it a second later, the wood shuddering, cracking, splintering. Harlan ran to the cellar hatch, threw it open. Here, down here, come and get me. The kitchen door exploded inward. The skinwalker stood in the frame, 7 feet tall, antlers sprouting from its skull, mouth open in a grin that split its face from ear to ear. The cellar, it laughed, Culver's laugh, Sarah's laugh, Harlan's own laugh. You think you can hide in a hole? Not hide, Harlan said, trap. He dropped through the hatch into the darkness below. The skinwalker followed, eager, hungry, unable to resist. Harlan landed hard, rolling, coming up with the detonator in his hand. The dynamite was arranged around the walls, 10 sticks, enough to bring down the house and bury them both. The skinwalker landed beside him, graceful, silent. It looked around the cellar, at the explosives, at the single exit now blocked by Harlan's body. It said, I see, suicide. Murder-suicide, Harlan corrected. I'm taking you with me. You think explosives can kill me? No, but they can bury you, under tons of rock, forever. Forever is a long time, Harlan. I can wait. Not if you're crushed, not if you're trapped. The skinwalker studied him, those terrible eyes seeing too much. You would die for this, for revenge. I would die to protect what's mine, to stop you from hurting anyone else. Noble, the creature nodded, stupid but noble. It stepped closer, but you forgot something. What? I don't need to kill you to win. I just need to wait. It moved faster than Harlan could react. One clawed hand shot out, knocked the detonator from his grip, sent it skittering across the floor. No, Harlan lunged for it, but the skinwalker was there, blocking his way, laughing. Patience, old man, patience. It picked up the detonator, turned it over in its hands, studying it. Such a simple thing, such a human solution. Boom, problem solved. It looked at Harlan, smiled. But what if I don't want to be solved? It crushed the detonator in its fist, the plastic cracking, the wires snapping. No, Harlan whispered. No, no, no. Yes, the creature dropped the ruined device. Now what will you do? Harlan looked around the cellar, desperate. The dynamite was still there, still live, but without the detonator he couldn't trigger it. He was trapped, unarmed, facing a creature that could tear him apart with a thought. I can still fight, he said, raising his fists. You can try. The skinwalker lunged. But it didn't attack Harlan. It went past him to the wall, to the dynamite. It picked up a stick, turned it over, smiled. You know what this is, don't you? It held up the explosive. This is potential, this is power, this is the ability to destroy. Put it down. Why, you wanted to use it, why shouldn't I? You'll kill us both. I told you I can't be killed, but you can. It looked at the dynamite, then at Harlan. One stick, one explosion, not enough to bring down the house, but enough to kill you, to end this. Then do it, get it over with. Where's the fun in that? The creature set the dynamite down, gently, carefully. No, Harlan, I have a better idea. It stepped back, gave him space. Run. What? Run, get out of the cellar, go to your truck, drive away, leave this place. You're letting me go. I'm giving you a choice, stay and die, or run and live. Why? Because living is worse. The skinwalker's smile was gentle, almost kind. If you run, you'll never stop running. Every shadow will be me. Every sound will be my voice. You'll see me in every window, hear me in every silence. You'll go mad, Harlan, slowly, surely, completely mad. And when you finally break, when you finally can't run anymore, I'll be there, waiting. And if I stay, then you die now, quick, painless, relatively. Harlan looked at the creature, at the dynamite, at the ruined detonator. He thought about Sarah, about his son, about the life he'd lived. He thought about running, about the years of fear, the decades of waiting. No, he said. No. I won't run, and I won't die easy. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his grandfather's lighter, the old Zippo, engraved with the brand of the ranch. If I'm going out, I'm taking you with me. He flicked the lighter. The flame caught steady and bright. The skinwalker's smile faltered. You wouldn't. Watch me. Harlan lunged for the dynamite. The creature was faster. It knocked him aside, sent him sprawling, the lighter flying from his hand. But Harlan had expected that, had planned for it. As he fell, he grabbed the stick of dynamite, pulled the fuse, and rolled toward the wall. No, the skinwalker screamed. Harlan smiled. See you in hell. The explosion was everything he'd hoped for and more. Chapter 4: The Aftermath. The explosion didn't kill Harlan. It should have. By all rights, it should have torn him apart, buried him under tons of rock and timber, ended his life in a flash of fire and pain. But it didn't. He woke to darkness, to silence, to the smell of smoke and blood and something else, something ancient and hungry that still lingered in the air. He was buried, that much was clear. He could feel the weight pressing down on him, the crushing pressure of earth and stone, but he was alive. Somehow, impossibly, he was alive. He tried to move, to shift, to find space. His left arm was broken. He could feel that, the bone grating with every movement. His ribs were cracked, his breathing shallow and painful, but he could move, could breathe, could think. Where was the skinwalker? He couldn't feel it, couldn't sense its presence. The explosion had either destroyed it or buried it or driven it away. Or it was waiting, playing dead, letting him think he'd won. He needed to get out, needed to dig his way to the surface, to air, to light. He started moving, slowly, carefully, using his good arm to push aside debris, to create space, to climb toward the surface. It was slow work, agonizing, every movement sending waves of pain through his broken body. Hours passed, or minutes, he couldn't tell. Time had no meaning in the dark. Then light. A thin shaft of it filtering through the wreckage above. Dawn. The sun was rising. Harlan redoubled his efforts, clawing his way toward the light, ignoring the pain, the blood, the broken bones. He was going to make it. He was going to survive. He broke through to the surface, just as the sun cleared the mountains, flooding the world with golden light. The house was gone, completely destroyed. Where it had stood there was now a crater, a pile of rubble, a grave of stone and wood. Harlan lay in the wreckage, gasping, bleeding, but alive. Alive. He looked around, searching for signs of the skinwalker. There was nothing. No movement, no sound, just the morning birds and the wind in the pines and the distant lowing of cattle. The creature was gone. Or was it? He found Rex in the barn, miraculously unharmed. The dog had escaped the house before the explosion, had hidden in the hay, trembling but alive. "Good boy," Harlan whispered, hugging the dog, ignoring the pain. "Good boy, you made it." Rex licked his face, whining, tail wagging. They were alive, both of them. Against all odds, against all reason, they were alive. But the ranch was destroyed. The house, the barn, the equipment, all gone, buried under the rubble of Harlan's last stand. And the skinwalker was still out there, somewhere, waiting. Harlan knew it, could feel it in his bones. The creature wasn't dead, it couldn't be killed, it was just delayed, trapped, angry. It would be back. He spent the day recovering, binding his wounds, gathering what supplies he could from the wreckage. He found his truck, miraculously intact, parked where he'd left it. The keys were in his pocket. He could leave, drive away, find help, find a hospital, find someone who would believe his story. But who would believe him? A crazy old man raving about skinwalkers and explosions and creatures that couldn't be killed. They'd lock him up, sedate him, forget about him. No, he couldn't leave, not yet. He had to rebuild, had to restore the wards, had to be ready when the creature returned. He spent the week in the barn, living on canned food and rainwater, his arm in a sling made from his shirt, his ribs wrapped in duct tape. He carved new symbols into the trees, the ones that hadn't been destroyed, the ones that still stood. The spiral, the jagged line, the marks that bind. He carved until his hands bled, until he couldn't lift the knife, until he collapsed from exhaustion. And every night he waited, listened, watched. The skinwalker didn't come. Days passed, then weeks. The silence remained, but it was normal silence now, natural silence, the silence of the country rather than the silence of something waiting. Harlan began to hope. Maybe the explosion had worked. Maybe the creature was truly gone, buried under the house, crushed by the stone, destroyed by the dynamite. Maybe he'd won. He started rebuilding, slowly, painfully, one board at a time, a new shed to replace the house, a new corral for the cattle that had survived, a new life built on the ruins of the old. Rex stayed with him, never leaving his side, always alert, always watching. The dog knew. The dog remembered. Months passed. The seasons turned. Summer gave way to fall, fall to winter, winter to spring. And on the first warm night of spring, the silence returned. Harlan was sitting on the porch of his new shed, watching the stars when he felt it. The pressure, the weight, the presence. He grabbed his rifle, stood up, scanned the tree line. Nothing, just the pines swaying in the breeze, innocent and dark. But he knew. "I know you're there," he called out. "Show yourself." "Nothing. I beat you once, I can beat you again." A laugh, soft, distant, carried on the wind. "Did you?" The voice was the skinwalker's, but different, weaker. "Did you beat me, Harlan? You're still here, still hunting, but you can't touch me. The wards hold." The wards hold. The creature stepped from the shadows and Harlan gasped. It was damaged, badly damaged. Half its face was gone, revealing bone and muscle beneath. One arm hung useless, the skin hanging in strips. It moved with a limp, dragging its injured leg. "You hurt me," it said. "No one has hurt me in centuries. I can hurt you more." Perhaps. It stopped at the edge of the ward, the invisible line that Harlan had carved into the earth. "But you can't kill me. No one can." "Then why are you here? Why not heal? Why not wait?" "Because I'm hungry." The creature's remaining eye fixed on him, burning with hate and hunger. "Because you denied me, because you dared to fight back. And now we negotiate." "Negotiate?" "A truce." The skinwalker gestured at the ward. "You lower your protection, I leave you alone. You live out your remaining years in peace. And in exchange, you give me one thing." "What?" The creature smiled, its ruined face twisting. "The dog." Harlan's blood went cold. "No. He's old, he's dying, he has maybe a year left. Give him to me and I'll leave you alone, forever." "No." "Think about it, Harlan. One old dog in exchange for your life, your peace, your sanity." I said no. "Then we continue." The skinwalker stepped back, fading into the shadows. "I'll be watching, always watching. And when the wards fail, when you slip, when you weaken, when you sleep, I'll be there." "The wards won't fail." "Everything fails, Harlan. Everything dies. Even you, especially you." It was gone. The silence lifted. The night returned to normal. But Harlan knew that the war wasn't over, that it would never be over, that he would spend the rest of his life, however long that was, waiting, watching, guarding against a creature that had all the time in the world. He looked at Rex, at the dog who had been his companion through everything. "I won't give you up, boy. Not ever." Rex's whine pressed against his leg. He understood. He always understood. Harlan sat back down on the porch, his rifle across his knees, and watched the tree line where the darkness waited. He would rebuild, he would restore, he would survive. And someday, he would find a way to end this, to kill the unkillable, to destroy the undestroyable. Until then, he would wait. The shadow at Black Pines Ranch was still out there, still watching, still hungry. But so was Harlan Dunn. And he wasn't going anywhere. Epilogue: The New Normal. 5 years later, Harlan was still alive. He was 78 now, ancient by any standard, his body broken and rebuilt so many times he'd lost count. His left arm never healed right, hung stiff and useless at his side. His ribs ached with every breath. His eyes were failing, his hearing gone, his mind. His mind was still sharp, sharper than ever. The constant vigilance had kept him alert, aware, alive. The ranch was thriving in its way. He'd sold off most of the cattle, kept only a few head for company. The new shed had become a cabin, small but sturdy, protected by wards that covered every inch of the property. He'd learned to carve the symbols into everything: trees, rocks, the very walls of his home. The spiral and the jagged line, repeated endlessly, creating a fortress of protection that the skinwalker couldn't penetrate. It still came, still watched, still tested the wards. But it couldn't get in. Rex had died 2 years ago, peacefully, in his sleep. Harlan had buried him beneath the largest pine on the property, carved the symbols into the trunk above his grave. The skinwalker had wanted him, had offered everything for him, but Harlan had refused. And in the end, the creature had been denied. Harlan sat on his porch now, as he did every evening, watching the sun set behind the mountains. His rifle was beside him, loaded, ready. His knife was in his belt, sharp enough to carve stone. He was alone, but he was safe. Mostly. Sometimes late at night he heard it, the scratching at the ward, the testing of the boundary, the whispered promises and threats. "Harlan, I'm here," he would answer. "I'm still here. Not forever. Long enough." The creature would laugh, that terrible laugh, and then retreat. Wait, plan. Harlan knew he couldn't win. Not really. The skinwalker was immortal, patient, endlessly resourceful. Eventually the wards would fail. Eventually Harlan would weaken. Eventually the creature would get what it wanted. But not today, not tomorrow, not while Harlan Dunn still drew breath. He looked at the tree line, at the pines that had given his ranch its name, at the symbols carved into every trunk, glowing faintly in the fading light. The shadow at Black Pines Ranch was still there, still watching, still waiting. But so was he. And he would be here, ready, waiting until the end. Whatever end that might be. Final image. A single ward on a tree, freshly splintered, as if something's testing it. The Hollow Mountain. A horror novel. Chapter 1. In Media Res. The smell hit me first, like wet earth and copper. They told me it was the ventilation system, but I knew better. I knew better because I'd spent 17 years studying things that shouldn't exist. Things that crawled out of the spaces between human understanding and the dark places where the light had never reached. I'd written papers that got me laughed out of 3 conferences and 1 tenured position. I'd collected evidence that the scientific community dismissed as hoaxes, hallucinations, or hysteria. And now I was here, in the belly of something older than the mountains themselves, and that smell, that terrible, ancient smell, was the first truth I'd encountered in months. Let me go back. Let me tell you how I arrived at this moment, sitting in a concrete room 3,000 feet below the surface of the earth, writing this by the glow of a single emergency light while something scratches at the door. 3 days earlier, I was in my office at the University of Colorado, packing the last of my personal effects into cardboard boxes. The department chair, Dr. Harriet Voss, stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, watching me with that expression she'd perfected, equal parts pity and contempt. "Melvin," she said, using my first name like a weapon, "you could still change your mind, retract the paper, apologize for the embarrassment. The board might reconsider." I didn't look up from the box of reference materials I was packing. "The paper is sound, Harriet. The data is sound. The conclusions are the only logical interpretation of the evidence. The paper claims that the Minnesota Wendigo sightings of 2019 were genuine encounters with a previously unknown species of hominid with predatory mimicry capabilities and possible telepathic influence. You used the word telepathic, Melvin, in a peer-reviewed journal. I use the word telepathic because it's the only word that describes what the witnesses experienced. Shared hallucinations don't leave physical evidence. Shared hallucinations don't cause identical brain lesions in 17 unrelated individuals. And you think the government is covering it up." I finally looked at her. "I think the government is doing what governments do when they encounter something they can't explain or control. They're studying it in secret while publicly denying its existence, and I think they've been doing it for a very long time." She shook her head. "You're throwing away your career, your reputation, everything you've worked for." "I'm following the evidence where it leads. That's what scientists are supposed to do. That's what conspiracy theorists do, Melvin. Scientists follow evidence to reasonable conclusions." Reasonable according to whom? According to the consensus that refuses to look at anything that challenges their worldview. The same consensus that dismissed continental drift for 40 years. The same consensus that laughed at the idea of rocks falling from space. She didn't have an answer for that. She never did. The scientific community had a long and distinguished history of being wrong about almost everything, and an equally distinguished history of punishing anyone who pointed it out. I finished packing my boxes and carried them to my car. That evening, as I sat in my rented apartment surrounded by cardboard and regret, the phone rang. "Dr. Odling." The voice was male, military, with the flat affect of someone who'd learned to keep emotion out of his speech. "This is Commander Hargrove. I'm calling from the Office of Scientific Research and Development. We'd like to discuss your recent publication." "Which one? The one about the Wendigo?" "The one that got you fired, yes. We think you might be uniquely qualified for a project we're initiating. We'd like you to come to Wyoming tomorrow." "Wyoming? What's in Wyoming?" "Facility K9. And answers, Dr. Odling. The answers you've been looking for. Pack for cold weather and indefinite duration. A car will pick you up at 6 a.m. The line went dead before I could ask any questions. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window and watched the Denver skyline until the sun came up, wondering if I was about to be recruited into something extraordinary or arrested for something criminal. The government didn't just call up discredited academics and invite them to secret facilities. That was movie nonsense. Conspiracy theory paranoia. But at 5:58 a.m., a black SUV with tinted windows pulled up to my building, and a man in a suit stepped out and opened the rear door. "Dr. Odling, I'm Corporal Stevens. Commander Hargrove sends his regards." I got in the car. We drove for 6 hours without speaking. Stevens sat in the front passenger seat, occasionally murmuring into a radio in a code I couldn't follow. The driver never spoke at all. I tried to engage them in conversation a few times, but they responded with such complete silence that I eventually gave up. The landscape changed as we traveled north. The suburbs of Denver gave way to open plains, then to foothills, then to the beginning of the Rocky Mountains. We passed through small towns with names I didn't recognize, places that seemed to exist in a different century than the one I lived in. No cell service, no internet, just road and sky and the growing presence of the mountains. At noon, we stopped at a checkpoint in the middle of nowhere. A fence stretched for miles in either direction, topped with razor wire and surveillance cameras. Armed soldiers examined our credentials through the windows before waving us through. "We're entering restricted airspace now," Stevens said, his first word since Denver. "No unauthorized aircraft within 50 miles. No civilian presence within 20. "What are you protecting?" I asked. He didn't answer. The road climbed into the mountains, switchbacking through pine forests that grew denser and darker with each mile. The air grew colder. The sky disappeared behind a canopy of branches. I felt like we were driving into the throat of something vast and hungry, being swallowed by the earth itself. Then I saw it. Wapiti Ridge rose above the tree line, a massive granite formation that seemed to lean over the valley like a predator studying its prey. And at its base, carved into the living rock, was a concrete structure that looked like the entrance to a tomb. Facility K9. The convoy stopped at a second checkpoint, this one underground. We passed through blast doors thick enough to withstand a nuclear strike. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. The air became heavy, pressurized, carrying that smell I'd mentioned earlier, that smell of wet earth and copper that no ventilation system could explain. Commander Hargrove met me in a conference room that looked like it hadn't been updated since the Cold War. He was a tall man, maybe 60, with silver hair and a face that had seen too much and forgotten how to express any of it. His hands trembled slightly as he poured 2 cups of coffee. I noticed the scars, fine, white lines that webbed across his knuckles and disappeared beneath his sleeves. "Dr. Odling," he said, not offering to shake hands. "Thank you for coming. I apologize for the abrupt nature of your recruitment, but we operate under certain constraints." "What kind of constraints?" "The kind that don't allow for lengthy explanations or second thoughts." He pushed a folder across the table. "Your paper on the Minnesota Wendigo. You theorized that the creature exhibits advanced learning behavior, that it studies its prey, that it adapts its hunting strategies based on observed patterns." "That's correct," the evidence suggested. "The evidence suggested that you understand more about these creatures than anyone outside this facility." Hargrove opened the folder to reveal a photograph that made me forget how to breathe. It was the Wendigo. Not a blurry trail cam image, not a witness sketch. A high-resolution photograph taken in what appeared to be some kind of artificial environment. The creature stood 7 feet tall, its body emaciated to the point of skeletal revelation, skin stretched tight over elongated bones. Antlers, actual antlers, not horns, not growths, but the branching bone structures of a massive deer, rose from its skull and scraped against the ceiling of whatever enclosure held it. But the face was almost human, too human. Hollow cheeks, sunken eyes that reflected the camera flash with an intelligence that made my skin crawl, and a mouth that was open in what might have been a scream or a laugh, revealing teeth that were unmistakably human in their arrangement. "This was taken 3 weeks ago," Hargrove said, "in the containment chamber 3 levels below us. The creature you see here has been in our custody for 11 months. It has killed 14 people. It has escaped containment 4 times. And it is learning, Dr. Odling. It is learning faster than we can adapt our security protocols." I couldn't take my eyes off the photograph. "How is this possible? How did you capture it?" "We didn't capture it. It allowed itself to be captured, or rather, it captured us." Hargrove's hands trembled more noticeably now. "It showed up at a research station in Manitoba, killed everyone except 1 survivor, and then waited for our retrieval team. It wanted to be here, Dr. Odling. It wanted access to what we know, to what we are." That's not possible. These are animals, predators. They don't think in terms of." "It asked for you by name." The room went silent. I could hear my own heartbeat, suddenly too loud, suddenly too fast. "What?" 3 days ago, during a routine observation session, the creature spoke. It has never spoken before. It has mimicked sounds, yes, animal calls, human voices, machinery noises. But 3 days ago, it formed a complete sentence. It looked into the camera and said, "Bring me the one who knows we learn." That's mimicry, parrot behavior. It heard someone say that and it repeated. No one had said that, Dr. Odling. No one in this facility. No one in any government communication. The only place those words exist is in your paper. In the paper you published 6 weeks ago. The paper that got you fired. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. I gripped the edge of the table to keep from falling. How, I whispered, how could it know? That's what we want you to find out. Hargrove stood up, his movements stiff, mechanical. You're here because you theorize they learn. Let's see if you're right. The elevator leaves in 10 minutes. You'll be taken to the observation level. You'll meet the rest of the research team. And then, Dr. Odling, you'll begin the most important work of your life. Or the last work of my life. Hargrove's smile didn't reach his eyes. In our experience, Dr. Odling, those are often the same thing. The elevator was a cage of reinforced steel with no buttons, no controls, just a keycard reader and a speaker. Hargrove swiped his card and the doors closed with a sound like a coffin lid sealing. We descended for what felt like hours but was probably minutes. I counted the seconds of silence, 47 of them, before the elevator groaned to a stop and the doors opened onto a nightmare. The corridor stretched before us, lit by fluorescent tubes that buzzed and flickered with irregular rhythms. The walls were concrete, sweating moisture that gathered in pools on the floor. And the smell, that terrible smell of earth and copper, was stronger here, concentrated, as if the mountain itself was exhaling through these tunnels. This way, Hargrove said. We walked past doors marked with codes I didn't understand. K9 Alpha, K9 Beta, K9 Gamma. Each one had a small window of reinforced glass, and through each one I caught glimpses of things that my mind refused to process. Movement in darkness, shapes that didn't conform to any geometry I recognized, sounds that weren't quite sounds but more like the memory of sounds, echoes of screams that hadn't happened yet. What is this place? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. This is where we keep the things that don't fit in the world, Hargrove said. The things that contradict our understanding of reality. The things that, if they were widely known, would destabilize everything. Religion, science, society, all of it would crumble if people knew what was really out there in the dark. And the Wendigo. Project Wandering Star, our most challenging resident. He stopped at a door marked K9 Omega and swiped his card again. Prepare yourself, Dr. Odling. No one walks away from this unchanged. The door opened onto a viewing gallery that overlooked the largest underground space I'd ever seen. It was a cavern, artificially expanded, maybe 200 feet across and 100 feet high. And some team of engineers with unlimited budget and questionable sanity, had transformed it into a forest. Real pine trees grew from the floor, reaching toward artificial lighting that mimicked the spectrum of sunlight. An artificial creek ran through the center, its water circulating through hidden pumps. Mist drifted through the branches, generated by machines I couldn't see. It was beautiful, in a terrible way. A fragment of wilderness buried beneath a mountain, preserved like a specimen in a jar. The containment chamber, Hargrove said, designed to simulate the creature's natural habitat. We thought it would keep it calm. We thought wrong. Where is it? Watch. I pressed my face to the glass. I scanned the trees, the creek, the shadows between the branches. Nothing moved, nothing breathed. The chamber was silent except for the artificial sound of running water. Then the trees parted. It stepped into the light. The photograph hadn't prepared me. Nothing could have prepared me. The Wendigo moved with a fluid grace that contradicted its emaciated form, each step deliberate, considered as if it was performing for an audience it knew was watching. Its antlers, God, those antlers, massive and branching and wrong on a humanoid form, scraped against the ceiling as it walked, leaving marks in the concrete. But the face, I couldn't look away from the face. It was almost human. The proportions were wrong, too long, too narrow, the eyes too large and too dark, but the structure was unmistakably hominid, and it was looking directly at the observation window, directly at me. It smiled. Not a snarl, not a threat display, a smile. Human teeth, white and even, curving up at the corners in an expression of genuine pleasure. It raised one long, clawed hand and waved. At me. It knows you're here, Hargrove whispered. It always knows. The Wendigo opened its mouth and spoke, its voice carrying through the intercom system with perfect clarity. Hello, Dr. Odling. I've been waiting for you. The sound of my name in its mouth was the most terrifying thing I'd ever heard, not because of the voice itself, which was soft, almost gentle like a parent speaking to a child, but because of the recognition in it, the familiarity. The Wendigo said my name like it knew me, like it had always known me. Don't respond, Hargrove said quickly. Don't engage, we never engage directly. But it spoke to me, It speaks to everyone eventually. It learns their names, their voices, their fears. That's what it does. That's what it's been doing since we brought it here. Learning, studying, preparing. Preparing for what? Hargrove didn't answer. He was staring at the creature with an expression I couldn't read. Fear, yes, but also something else. Respect. Awe, the look of a man who had seen something that had destroyed his understanding of the world and was still trying to rebuild around the void. The Wendigo tilted its head, bird-like, studying us through the glass. Then it did something that made Hargrove take a step back. It laughed. The sound was Raj's laugh. I didn't know who Raj was yet, but I would learn. I would learn that the Wendigo had been listening to the research team, recording their voices, their mannerisms, their vulnerabilities. I would learn that laughter was its favorite sound to steal, because laughter meant safety, meant trust, meant lowering defenses. Who is Raj? I asked. Hargrove's face went pale. How did you know that name? The creature just laughed like him. You must have mentioned. I didn't mention anyone. Hargrove grabbed my arm, his grip surprisingly strong. We never use names in front of it. We never use names anywhere it might overhear. That's protocol. That's survival. Then how? It knows. Hargrove released me, his hands shaking worse now. It always knows. Come on. I'll introduce you to the team. And then, Dr. Odling, you need to tell us how to kill this thing before it kills us all. We left the viewing gallery. The Wendigo watched us go, still smiling, still waving, its dark eyes following us until the door closed and cut off its view. But I could still feel it watching, still feel it waiting. And I knew, with a certainty that settled in my bones like cold water, that this was only the beginning. The mountain wasn't hollow. It was hungry. Chapter 2: The Team. The research quarters were located on level 4, one level above the containment chamber but still deep enough that I could feel the weight of the mountain pressing down on us. The air was recycled, stale, carrying the faint taste of metal and something else, something organic that the filtration systems couldn't quite remove. Hargrove led me to a common area that served as kitchen, lounge, and briefing room. 3 people looked up as we entered, their expressions ranging from curiosity to exhaustion to barely concealed hostility. Team, Hargrove said, his voice taking on the formal tone of command. This is Dr. Melvin Odling. He's here to consult on Project Wandering Star. Dr. Odling, meet your colleagues. The woman who stood first was small, Vietnamese, maybe 40 years old, with streaks of gray in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much. She wore a wedding ring that she twisted compulsively as she spoke. Dr. Lian Nguyen, she said, not offering her hand. Behavioral specialist, I've read your paper. Interesting theories, dangerous but interesting. Dangerous how? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You'll see, we all see eventually. The man sitting at the table was Indian heavyset, with a beard that hadn't been trimmed in weeks and eyes that were slightly too bright. He held a flask in his hand, and I noticed that his fingers were stained with something dark, oil maybe, or something worse. "Dr. Rajesh Varma," he said, his voice rough, tired. "Containment engineer, call me Raj, everyone does." He took a long drink from his flask. "Whiskey." "It's not even noon." "Down here it's never noon. Down here time doesn't mean what you think it means." He pushed the flask toward me. "Drink, you'll need it." I declined. Raj shrugged and took another swallow. The third person didn't stand. He sat in the corner, a military man in his 30s with a face that looked like it had been carved from stone and then weathered by storms. His uniform was perfect, his posture rigid, but there was something wrong with his eyes. The left pupil was dilated, fixed, while the right responded normally to the light. "Sergeant Cole," Hargrove said. "Head of security, he doesn't talk much." "I talk when there's something worth saying," Cole said, his voice flat, mechanical. "There's rarely something worth saying." "Sergeant Cole has been with us since the beginning," Hargrove explained. "He was part of the original retrieval team. He's seen things that give him perspective." "Perspective," Cole repeated, as if tasting the word. "That's one word for it." I looked at each of them in turn. Lian twisting her ring, her eyes darting to the door and back. Raj drinking steadily from his flask, his hands trembling slightly. Cole staring at nothing, his mismatched pupils reflecting different versions of the same nightmare. "How long have you all been here?" I asked. "Lian 6 months," Hargrove said. "Raj 4, Cole 2 years. 2 years? I stared at the sergeant. "You've been down here for 2 years. "I go topside occasionally," Cole said. "Medical evaluations, psych screenings, but I always come back. Someone has to keep watch. Someone has to make sure it doesn't get out." "And has it gotten out?" The silence that followed was answer enough. "4 times," Lian said quietly. "It's escaped containment 4 times. The first time it killed 3 technicians before they could sedate it. The second time it killed 5. The third time it didn't kill anyone. It just walked through the facility, looked in every room, touched every door. Then it went back to its chamber and waited for us to lock it in again." "It was learning the layout," I said, understanding dawning. "Learning the security systems, the blind spots." "The 4th time," Raj interrupted, his voice slurred, "it killed 8 people, including the previous head of research. Dr. Morrison, good man, smart man. He thought he understood the creature. He thought he could communicate with it." "What happened?" "It communicated back," Cole said. "It told him things about his childhood, things about his fears, things no one could have known. And then when he was crying and shaking and begging for it to stop, it reached through the containment field, through the electric fence that should have killed anything that touched it, and it pulled him through. Took him apart, piece by piece, while we watched." "Jesus Christ." "Jesus Christ isn't down here," Raj said, taking another drink. "Jesus Christ doesn't come to places like this. We're on our own, Dr. Odling, just us and the thing in the dark." Hargrove cleared his throat. "That's enough history for now. Dr. Odling needs to see the current research protocols. Lian, you'll brief him on the behavioral observations. Raj, show him the containment systems. Cole, double-check the perimeter sensors. We don't want any surprises." "Surprises are all we ever get," Cole said, but he stood and left the room, his movements precise, military, hiding whatever damage had been done to his mind. Lian took me to the observation deck, the same room where I'd seen the Wendigo, now empty, the containment chamber dark beyond the glass. "We observe in shifts," she explained, pulling up logs on a computer screen. 6 hours on, 6 hours off. The creature is most active during what we call the dark hours, when we dim the artificial lighting to simulate night. That's when it hunts, or pretends to hunt. We're not sure if it actually needs to eat or if it just enjoys the process." "What does it eat?" "Meat," Raw meat mostly. We provide it with cattle, deer, occasionally pigs. It consumes them completely, bones, organs, everything, no waste, no remains. She pulled up a video file. Watch this. This is from last week. The video showed the containment chamber in night mode, lit only by infrared cameras. The Wendigo moved through the trees with impossible silence, stalking a cow that had been released into the chamber. The animal was terrified. I could see that even in the grainy footage, eyes wide, nostrils flaring, muscles trembling. The Wendigo didn't rush. It didn't attack. It circled, studying, learning the cow's patterns. Then, when the animal was exhausted with fear, it approached slowly, almost gently, and placed one clawed hand on the cow's head. The cow stopped struggling. It stood still, trembling, as the Wendigo leaned down and whispered something in its ear. Then, only then, did it strike, a single, surgical movement that opened the cow's throat. But it didn't feed immediately. It waited, watching the cow die, its head tilted in that bird-like manner I'd seen earlier. Only when the cow's heart stopped did it begin to eat. It calmed the prey first, I said, my voice hollow. It reduced the stress hormones, made the meat better. Or it enjoys the fear but doesn't want it to interfere with the feeding, Leon said. We're not sure which is worse. What was it whispering? We don't know. The audio pickup doesn't capture it clearly. But we've analyzed the waveforms. It's not random noise. It's structured. It's language. Language. The creature speaks, Dr. Odling. Not just mimicry, actual communication. We've recorded it having conversations with itself, arguing sometimes. As if there are multiple minds in that body, multiple personalities. Or multiple entities, I said, remembering my research. The traditional Wendigo mythology describes it as a spirit that possesses a human host. Maybe what we're seeing isn't a single creature but a symbiosis, a human body taken over by something else. That's what Dr. Morrison thought. Leon's voice was soft, sad. He thought he could reach the human part, save it. That's why he tried to communicate. And instead, the other part reached him. Yes, she turned off the video. The creature learns, Dr. Odling. It learns everything. Your voice, your habits, your fears. It watches us constantly, even when we think it can't see us. We've found cameras disabled, audio feeds corrupted, data logs altered. It's trying to understand us the way we're trying to understand it. And what happens when it understands us completely? Leon didn't answer. She didn't need to. Raj found me in the engineering section, surrounded by schematics and control panels that looked like they belonged on a submarine. He was more sober now, or at least better at hiding his intoxication. Containment systems, he said, tapping a diagram. 3 layers. First, the physical barrier, reinforced concrete, steel mesh, electrified fencing. Second, the environmental controls, temperature, humidity, air pressure, all monitored and adjustable. Third, the psychological deterrence. Psychological. Infrasound. Low-frequency vibrations that cause discomfort, anxiety, even hallucinations in most mammals. The theory was that if we made the environment unpleasant enough, the creature would want to stay in its chamber. Does it work? Raj laughed, a bitter sound. It works on us. The infrasound leaks through the walls, through the floors. Everyone who works here suffers from insomnia, paranoia, vivid nightmares. We've had 3 suicides in the past year. 2 of them left notes saying they could hear the creature whispering to them, even in their dreams, especially in their dreams. And the creature? It doesn't seem to mind. Sometimes when we crank up the infrasound to maximum, it dances. He pulled up a video file. Watch. The footage showed the Wendigo in its chamber, the trees around it vibrating with invisible force. And the creature, that terrible, beautiful, impossible creature, was moving in a way that might have been dancing or might have been something else entirely. Its limbs moved in patterns that hurt to watch, that seemed to fold space in ways that shouldn't be possible. What is that? We don't know. Some of the team think it's a mating display. Others think it's communication, a visual language we can't interpret. Dr. Morrison thought it was worship. Worship. He thought the creature was praying. To what, he didn't know, but he thought the infrasound resonated with something in the creature's biology, something that connected it to elsewhere. Elsewhere. Raj looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed, desperate. You've studied these things, Dr. Odling. You've read the stories, the legends, the witness accounts. You know that the Wendigo isn't just an animal, it's not even just a monster. It's a door, a window, a place where something else looks through into our world. You're talking about supernatural elements. I'm a scientist. I deal in observable phenomena. Then observe this. He pulled up another file, thermal imaging of the containment chamber. This is the creature's heat signature. I looked at the screen. The Wendigo should have shown up as a bright spot, a source of warmth in the cool underground environment. But the thermal image showed nothing. A void. A patch of absolute cold where the creature stood. It's not alive, Raj said. Not in any way we understand. It moves, it speaks, it eats, but it doesn't metabolize, doesn't generate heat, doesn't follow any of the biological rules. It's something else wearing a biological shape, a mask, a costume. Then what is it really? I don't know, but I know this. It's been here before, long before we built this facility, this mountain. He lowered his voice as if afraid of being overheard. This mountain is hollow, Dr. Odling, not just empty hollow. There's a space inside it that shouldn't exist. A cavern that goes down for miles. We found it when we were excavating, sealed it up, covered it, pretended it wasn't there. But the creature knows about it. Sometimes, late at night, it stands at the far end of its chamber and looks at the wall, and it smiles, like it's waiting for the door to open. I wanted to dismiss this as paranoia, as the delusions of a man who'd spent too long in the dark. But I'd seen the Wendigo smile. I'd heard it speak my name. And I knew, with a certainty that terrified me, that Raj was telling the truth. The mountain was hollow. And something was waiting inside. The first week passed in a blur of observation, documentation, and sleepless nights. I learned the routine. Wake at 600. Breakfast in the common area, observation shift from 800 to 1400, lunch, second observation shift from 1600 to 2200, then attempt to sleep while the infrasound vibrations turned my dreams into nightmares. I documented everything. The Wendigo's movements, its vocalizations, its interactions with the environment. I noted its mimicry, how it reproduced sounds with perfect fidelity, from bird calls to machinery noises to human voices. I cataloged its behaviors, the stalking, the studying, the killing, the feeding. And I watched it watch me. It knew when I was on duty. I was sure of that. It would position itself where I could see it clearly, where the observation window gave the best view. It would perform, dancing, singing, speaking in voices it had stolen from the team. Sometimes it would recite my own research papers back to me, word for word in my own voice. "You're here because you theorized we learn," it said on day 3, using my voice, my cadence, my hesitation. "Let's see if you're right." I didn't respond. Hargrove's warning echoed in my mind. Never engage, never acknowledge, never let it know it's getting to you. But it was getting to me. Of course it was. On day 5, I found Leon crying in the observation room. She'd been watching the night shift, and something had happened. "It spoke to me," she said, her voice broken. In Vietnamese, in my mother's voice. "It told me things about my childhood, things I never told anyone. How I used to hide under the bed when my father came home drunk. How I prayed for him to die. How I felt when he finally did." "It's not real," I said, knowing it was a lie. "It's just mimicry. It picks up sounds, voices, fragments of conversation." "It knew about the abortion," Leon whispered. "The one I had when I was 19. The one I never told my husband about. The one I pray for forgiveness for every night. It knew, Melvin. It knew, and it told me that the child would have been a girl, and she would have had my eyes, and she would have forgiven me. I didn't know what to say. I put my hand on her shoulder, and she flinched away. "Don't," she said. "Don't touch me. It sees everything. It knows everything. If it sees you comfort me, it'll use that. It'll use you against me. It'll use me against you. That's what it does. That's all it does." She ran from the room, leaving me alone with the observation window and the darkness beyond. I looked into the containment chamber. The lights were dimmed for night cycle. The trees were shadows against shadows, but I could feel it watching. I could feel its attention like a physical weight. "I know you're there," I whispered, breaking protocol, breaking every rule Hargrove had given me. "I know you can hear me. What do you want?" The darkness moved. A shape detached itself from the trees and approached the glass. The Wendigo's face emerged from the shadows, illuminated by the faint glow of emergency lighting. It was smiling. "I want what everyone wants," it said, using Leon's voice, her accent, her pain. "I want to go home." "Where is home?" The smile widened. Beneath, below, beyond, the place where the light first learned to fear the dark. It pressed its hand against the glass, and I saw that its palm was scarred, burned in a pattern that looked almost like writing. "You could take me there, Dr. Odling. You could open the door. You have the key." "I don't know what you're talking about." "You will." It stepped back, melting into the shadows. "You will." I didn't tell anyone about the conversation. I was afraid they'd think I was cracking, that I'd been down here too long, that I was becoming unreliable. I was afraid they were right. But I couldn't stop thinking about what it had said. The place where the light first learned to fear the dark. The hollow mountain. The door that needed a key. On day 7, I asked Raj about the sealed cavern. "Show me," I said. "I need to understand what we're dealing with." He hesitated, his hand going to his flask. "It's off limits. Hargrove's orders. No one goes near the excavation site." "Since when do you follow orders?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Since I saw what happened to the last person who didn't." He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the fear in his eyes. Real fear. The kind that changes a person permanently. "You want to see? Fine, but if Hargrove finds out I never took you there, you found it yourself. You understand?" "I understand." We waited until 200, when the night shift was deep in their observation routines, and the corridors were empty. Raj led me through maintenance tunnels that weren't on any official map, past doors that had been welded shut, through spaces that felt older than the facility itself. "This was here before," he said, his voice echoing strangely. "The government didn't build this mountain, they just found it, adapted it. The native peoples knew about it, the Shoshone, the Crow, the Blackfoot. They had stories about a hungry mountain that swallowed hunters whole. They stayed away. They were smart. And we're not. We're curious." He stopped at a dead end, a concrete wall that looked like any other. But when he pressed his hand against a specific spot, a section of the wall swung inward, revealing a passage beyond. Curiosity killed the cat, Dr. Odling, but satisfaction brought it back. "That's not how the saying goes." "Down here it is." The passage led to a metal platform overlooking a void. I couldn't see the bottom. My flashlight beam disappeared into darkness that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. But I could feel the space. Vast, ancient, hungry. "How deep is it?" "We've dropped sensors. They fall for miles before the signal cuts out." Raj's voice was hushed, reverent. "There's something down there, Dr. Odling, something that predates human civilization, maybe predates life on Earth. The creature knows about it. It wants to get back to it." "Why?" "Because it's not from here. None of them are. The Wendigo, the Skinwalkers, the Dogmen, they're visitors, refugees, things that slipped through cracks in reality and got trapped in our world. They want to go home. And this," he gestured into the void, "this is the way." I stared into the darkness, and for a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw something looking back. something vast and patient and older than stars. Then the lights went out. Not just our flashlights, everything. The emergency lighting, the status indicators, the faint hum of the ventilation systems. Absolute darkness. Absolute silence. Raj, my voice sounded small, swallowed by the void. I'm here, don't move, I'll. A sound cut him off. A sound from below, from deep in the hollow mountain. It was a voice, but not a voice, more like the memory of a voice, the echo of something that had spoken long ago and was still speaking, the words delayed by distance and time. It said my name. Melvin. And then the lights came back, and Raj was gone, and I was alone on the platform with the smell of copper and wet earth thick in my nostrils. Raj, I shouted, my voice cracking. Raj, where are you? No answer. Just the silence of the mountain and the feeling of being watched by something that had waited a very long time for this moment. I ran. I ran back through the maintenance tunnels, past the welded doors, through the corridors that seemed to shift and lengthen behind me. I ran until I burst into the common area, gasping, screaming for help. Hargrove was there, and Leon and Cole. They looked at me like I was crazy. Raj, I panted. Something took Raj in the excavation site, the hollow place, something. Dr. Odling. Hargrove's voice was calm, controlled. Dr. Varma is in his quarters. He went to bed 2 hours ago. He's been there all night. No, he was with me. He showed me. Showed you what? I stopped. I looked at their faces. Hargrove's impassive mask, Leon's frightened confusion, Cole's knowing silence. They didn't believe me, or they were pretending not to. The excavation site, I said, quieter now. The sealed cavern, he showed me. There is no sealed cavern, Hargrove said. There is no excavation site. This facility was built on solid granite. There are no hollow spaces. There are no secrets. That's a lie. I saw it. I felt it. Something spoke to me. You're tired, Dr. Odling. You've been under tremendous stress. Hargrove put his hand on my shoulder and I flinched away. I think you should get some rest. We'll discuss this in the morning. They led me to my quarters. They locked the door from the outside. I heard them talking in low voices, too quiet to make out the words, but I caught fragments. Breaking down. Too much too soon. Sedate him. I sat on my bed in the dark, shaking, trying to understand what had happened. Had I hallucinated? Had the infrasound, the isolation, the proximity to the creature finally broken my mind? Or had something else happened? Something that erased Raj's presence, that rewrote reality to exclude him from the narrative. I didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I sat and listened to the mountain breathe around me, and I knew that something had changed. Something was coming. And on day 8, when they finally let me out of my room, I learned that I was right. Because Raj was gone. Not dead, not missing. Gone. Erased from the facility's records, from the team's memories, from the photographs on the walls. No one remembered him. No one had ever heard of him. Except me. And the Wendigo, who smiled at me through the observation window and mouthed 2 words that I could read on its lips. You're next. Chapter 3, The Breakout. I tried to tell them. I tried to make them understand that Raj had existed, that he had shown me things, that something in this facility was rewriting reality itself. But they looked at me with pity and fear, the kind of looks you give to someone who's losing their grip on sanity. Hargrove assigned me to psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Sarah Chen, a military psychologist who'd been stationed at K9 for 8 months, asked me questions in a voice that suggested she'd already decided on the answers. Dr. Odling, when did you first notice Dr. Varma? When Hargrove introduced us, day 1, in the common area. And you believe this introduction actually occurred? I know it occurred. I spoke with him. I worked with him. He showed me the engineering section, the containment systems. He told me about the sealed cavern. There is no sealed cavern. There is. Raj showed it to me, something took him, something spoke my name from the darkness. Dr. Chen made notes on her tablet. Have you been experiencing sleep disturbances? Everyone here experiences sleep disturbances, the infrasound. I'm asking about your specific experiences, dreams, nightmares, visions. I hesitated. I'd been dreaming about the hollow mountain, about the void, about something vast moving in the darkness below, something that was reaching up, reaching out, searching for a way to climb back into the light. I've had nightmares, I admitted, but they're not just dreams, they're a normal response to abnormal stress, she interrupted. You're in an isolated environment, studying a creature that challenges your understanding of reality. It's natural that your mind would create narratives to explain the inexplicable. Raj isn't a narrative, he's a person. He had a flask. He drank from it constantly. He said it was whiskey, but I don't think it was. He had stains on his fingers, oil or something else. He was afraid. He was trying to tell me something about this place, about what they found when they built it. Dr. Odling, Chen set down her tablet. I've reviewed the security footage from the night in question. You left your quarters at 200. You walked through the maintenance tunnels alone. You stood on a storage platform for 17 minutes, talking to yourself. Then you ran back to the common area and claimed that Dr. Varma had been abducted. The footage is wrong, it's been altered. Or your memory has been altered by stress, by the creature's influence, by your own desire to find meaning in a meaningless situation. She leaned forward. Dr. Odling, I want to help you, but I need you to acknowledge that your perception of reality may not be accurate. And if it is accurate, if something really is happening here, something that can erase people from existence, then we'll deal with it. But first, we need to deal with you. She prescribed sedatives. She recommended reduced observation hours. She suggested I spend less time near the containment chamber. I took the sedatives. I pretended to comply. But I knew that Raj had been real, that the cavern existed, and that something in this facility was hunting us one by one. On day 10, I found proof. It was in the waste disposal logs. Every week, the facility generated waste, food packaging, broken equipment, biological samples, the remains of the creature's feedings. The logs tracked everything that was sent to the surface for disposal. And in the log from 3 days before my arrival, there was an entry, biohazard materials from engineering section, collected by Dr. R. Varma, disposal authorized by Commander Hargrove. Raj's name, in the official records, proof that he existed, that he worked here, that he was part of this facility. I took the log to Hargrove. I showed him the entry. I watched his face go pale. Where did you find this? Waste disposal records. It's dated 3 days before I arrived. You signed off on it. You authorized the disposal. You knew him. You worked with him. Hargrove's hands were shaking. The scars on his knuckles seemed to pulse, as if remembering old wounds. I don't remember this, he said. I don't remember him. But you signed the form. Your signature is right there. He stared at the paper. It's my signature. I recognize it, but I don't remember. He looked up at me, and for the first time I saw real fear in his eyes. Not the controlled fear of a military man dealing with the unknown, but the raw terror of someone realizing that his own mind couldn't be trusted. It's happening to all of us, I said. The creature, or something else. Something that can reach into our memories and erase what it doesn't want us to remember. That's not possible. None of this is possible. The creature shouldn't exist. The sealed cavern shouldn't exist. But they do. And now Raj doesn't exist except in my memory and this one document. How long until I'm erased too? How long until you forget I was ever here? Hargrove didn't answer. He just stared at the document, his hands trembling, his eyes distant. We need to find out what's happening, I said. We need to understand what we're dealing with, and we need to do it before we all disappear. He nodded slowly. What do you propose? I want to see the creature. I want to study it directly, not through glass face to face. That's insane. No one enters the containment chamber. That's the first rule. The first rule was written by people who didn't understand what they were dealing with. We need new rules. We need to communicate with it, learn from it, find out what it wants and why it's here. It wants to kill us, that's what it wants. Then why hasn't it? It's had 11 months. It could have escaped permanently any time it wanted, but it keeps coming back. It keeps letting us capture it. That means it wants something from us, something we haven't figured out yet. Hargrove was silent for a long time. Then, I'll consider it, but not yet. First, we need to verify your claims. We need to find other evidence of Dr. Varma's existence. There won't be any. Whatever is doing this is thorough. Then we'll be thorough too. He stood up, suddenly decisive. Meet me in the observation room at 1800. We'll review the security footage together, all of it. If Dr. Varma existed, there will be evidence. If he didn't finish the sentence. I knew what he was thinking. If Raj didn't exist, then I was insane. And if I was insane, I couldn't be trusted. I'd be sedated, restrained, maybe removed from the facility. Maybe removed from existence entirely. I went back to my quarters and waited. I tried to sleep, but the sedatives Dr. Chen had prescribed didn't work. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the void. I heard my name echoing from the darkness. I felt something reaching for me, something patient and hungry and old. At 17:45, I went to the observation room. Hargrove wasn't there. Neither was anyone else. The room was empty, the lights dimmed, the observation window showing only darkness beyond. I approached the glass. I pressed my face against it, trying to see into the containment chamber. The trees were shadows. The creek was silent. The mist had thickened into something almost solid. I know you're there, I whispered. I know you can hear me. What did you do to Raj? Where is he? The darkness moved. A shape detached itself from the trees and approached the glass. The Wendigo's face emerged from the shadows, illuminated by the faint glow of the observation room lights. It was smiling. Dr. Odling, it said, using my own voice. You came alone, how brave, how foolish. Where is Raj? What did you do to him? Raj, it tilted its head bird-like. I don't know anyone named Raj. Are you feeling well, doctor? You seem confused. Don't play games with me. I know you took him. I know you erased him from everyone's memory except mine. Why? Why keep me? The smile widened. Because you're special, Dr. Odling. You're the one who understands, the one who sees. The others, they look at me and see a monster, a specimen, a curiosity, but you look at me and see a student, a pupil, someone who wants to learn. I want to understand what you are, what you want. I want what everyone wants. It pressed its hand against the glass and I saw the scars again, the burned pattern that looked like writing. I want to go home, and you can help me. You can open the door. What door? The door in the mountain, the door that lays beneath, the door that was sealed long ago by people who feared what might come through. The sealed cavern. The hungry place, the hollow place, the place where my kind waits trapped between worlds searching for a way back. Its eyes, those terrible human eyes, seemed to glow with their own light. I was sent ahead, Dr. Odling, a scout, a messenger. I was supposed to find the door and open it, but I was captured, contained, studied. It laughed, a sound like breaking glass. They thought they were studying me, but I was studying them, learning their ways, their weaknesses, their fears. And now I'm ready. Now I have what I need. Now I just need the key. I'm not the key. Not yet, but you will be. It stepped back, melting into the shadows. The door opens soon, Dr. Odling. The mountain is waking. The hollow is calling. And when it opens, you'll have a choice. You can stand with us or you can stand in our way. I hope you choose wisely. Wait. But it was gone. The chamber was empty. Just trees and mist and the sound of artificial water running through artificial creeks. I stood there for a long time, my heart pounding, my mind racing. The creature had spoken to me. Really spoken, not just mimicry. It had told me things, secrets, plans, warnings. It wanted me to know what was coming. But why? I was still standing at the window when the alarm sounded. It was a sound I'd never heard before, a high-pitched wail that cut through the air like a blade. Red lights began flashing in the corridor outside. A voice came over the intercom, automated, calm. Containment breach, level 5. All personnel report to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Level 5, the containment chamber level. I ran. The corridors were chaos. Soldiers in full tactical gear ran past me, weapons drawn, faces grim. Technicians scrambled for emergency stations, pulling up schematics on portable screens. Someone was shouting orders, but the words were lost in the noise of the alarm. I pushed through the crowd, heading for the elevators. I needed to get to level 5. I needed to see what was happening. But the elevators were locked down. Red lights indicated that all vertical transport had been suspended. Stairs, I muttered, and ran for the emergency stairwell. I descended 3 levels, my lungs burning, my legs shaking. The alarm followed me, that terrible wail that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. When I reached level 5, the door was jammed. I could hear sounds from the other side, screaming, gunfire, something that might have been laughter. I put my shoulder to the door and pushed. It gave way suddenly, and I stumbled into a nightmare. The corridor was painted in blood, not metaphorically, literally. The walls, the floor, the ceiling were covered in arterial spray, the kind that only came from massive trauma. Bodies lay scattered like discarded dolls, soldiers, technicians, researchers, all torn apart with surgical precision. And at the end of the corridor, standing in a pool of blood that reached its knees, was the Wendigo. It had grown. That was my first thought. It was taller now, broader, its antlers branching into impossible geometries that hurt to look at. Its skin had changed too, no longer just stretched over bone, but rippling with muscle, with power, with something that shouldn't exist in 3-dimensional space. It turned to look at me. Its smile was wider now, stretching across a face that was less human than before. The teeth were longer, sharper, too numerous. "Dr. Odling," it said, and its voice was different too, deeper, resonant, carrying harmonics that made my teeth ache. "You missed the beginning, but you're just in time for the end. What have you done?" "What I was made to do, what I was sent to do." It gestured at the carnage around it. "They thought they could contain me, study me, control me. They forgot that I was the hunter, they were the prey. You killed all these people. I freed them." It stepped toward me, and I saw that its feet weren't touching the ground. It was floating, hovering, moving through the air like it was swimming through water. "I freed them from the lie of their existence, from the prison of their flesh. They understand now, Dr. Odling. They understand what waits beneath." "You're insane." "I'm awake." It was close now, close enough that I could smell it. That smell of copper and wet earth, but stronger now, concentrated, almost solid. "And soon you'll be awake too." It reached for me. I stumbled back, tripped over something soft and wet, fell to the floor. The Wendigo loomed over me, its shadow blocking out the emergency lights, its antlers scraping against the ceiling. "The door opens tonight," it whispered. "The mountain is hungry, the hollow is calling. And you, Dr. Odling, you will be the key." A gunshot rang out. The Wendigo's head snapped back, a hole appearing in its forehead. Black blood sprayed across the wall. "Get back," someone shouted. "Get away from it." I scrambled backward as soldiers poured into the corridor, rifles blazing. The Wendigo staggered, hit by dozens of rounds, its body jerking and twitching. But it didn't fall. It didn't die. It laughed. The sound was Cole's laugh. I recognized it from the common room, from our brief interactions. The Wendigo had stolen it, stored it, saved it for this moment. "Sergeant Cole," it said, its voice still carrying despite the gunfire. "Your left eye sees so clearly. Shall I show you what it sees?" Cole screamed. He dropped his weapon and clutched his face, blood pouring from beneath his fingers. The other soldiers faltered, confused, horrified. The Wendigo moved. It was faster than before, stronger. It swept through the soldiers like a scythe through wheat, claws flashing, antlers impaling, teeth tearing. In seconds, the corridor was silent again, except for Cole's sobbing and my own ragged breathing. The Wendigo stood among the bodies, covered in blood that wasn't its own. It looked at me, and its smile was gentle, almost loving. "Run, Dr. Odling," it said softly. "Run and hide. The game has begun and you're not ready to play." Then it turned and walked away down the corridor toward the elevator shaft, toward the surface, toward the world. I should have run, I should have hidden, but I didn't. I crawled to Cole, checked his pulse, found him alive but unconscious. I dragged him into a side room and barricaded the door. Then I sat in the dark and listened to the sounds of slaughter echoing through the facility. The Wendigo was free. And it was hunting. I don't know how long I sat there. Time had stopped meaning anything. The alarm had stopped, cut off, maybe, or broken. The emergency lights had failed, leaving only the faint glow of backup systems. Eventually, I heard movement in the corridor. Footsteps, human footsteps. "Dr. Odling," it was Leon's voice, trembling, terrified. "Are you there? Please, are you there?" I moved the barricade and opened the door. Leon stood in the corridor, covered in blood that wasn't hers, her eyes wide and unseeing. "It's loose," she said. "It's killing everyone. I saw it. I saw it take Hargrove. It whispered to him. It told him things, and then it. She collapsed against me, sobbing. I held her, feeling her shake, feeling her terror become my own. "How many survivors?" I asked. "I don't know. I saw Cole's body, or what was left of it, and Hargrove and the soldiers, so many soldiers." She pulled back, looking at me with desperate eyes. "What do we do? How do we stop it?" "We don't," I said. "We can't. Not with guns, not with force. It's too strong, too fast, too everything." "Then what? We just die." "No," I thought of what the Wendigo had said. "The door, the key, the hollow mountain. We trap it. We lure it somewhere it can't escape from." "Where? The containment chamber is destroyed. It broke through the walls, the ceiling, everything." "Not the containment chamber." I remembered Raj's words, his fear, the platform overlooking the void, the excavation site, the sealed cavern. "That doesn't exist," Hargrove said. Hargrove lied, or he forgot, or something made him forget, but I was there, I saw it, and I think, I paused, the pieces clicking into place. "I think that's where it wants to go. That's where it's been trying to get to all along. The containment chamber was just a waypoint. The real destination is below." "Below where?" "Below everything." I took her hand. "Come on, we need to find the others. Anyone who's still alive, we need to work together." We moved through the facility like ghosts, stepping over bodies, avoiding the pools of blood that seemed to grow larger with each passing minute. The Wendigo had been thorough. It had killed everyone it found. But not everyone was in the facility. Some had evacuated. Some had hidden. We found them in dribs and drabs, 2 soldiers in a supply closet, a technician in the ventilation ducts, a cook in the freezer. 7 of us in total. 7 survivors out of a facility that had held over 50 people. We gathered in the common area, the only place with working lights and intact doors. I looked at their faces, Leon trembling but determined. The 2 soldiers, Corporal James and Private First Class Martinez, both barely out of their teens. The technician, a heavy-set man named Gordon who kept muttering about his wife. The cook, a woman named Rosa who hadn't said a word since we found her. And Cole, who I'd dragged from the corridor, now conscious but blind in his left eye, the pupil blown wide and black. "Listen to me," I said, trying to project confidence I didn't feel. "The creature is loose. It's killed dozens of people, and it's not going to stop. We need to evacuate, Martinez said. Call for extraction. Get the hell out of here. Communications are down, Gordon said. I tried, everything's dead, we're cut off. Then we fight, James said, clutching his rifle. We hunt it down and kill it. You can't kill it, Cole said, his voice hollow. I shot it in the head. I saw the bullet go in. It laughed. Then what do we do? Rosa asked, her first words. Just wait to die. No, I said. We trap it. There's a place in this facility, a sealed cavern deep below. The creature wants to get there. It's been trying to get there since it arrived. If we can lure it down there, seal it in. Seal it in with what? Leon asked. Concrete, steel. It broke through the containment chamber like it was paper. Not concrete, not steel. I thought of the infrasound, the vibrations, the way the creature had danced when the frequencies hit. Infrasound. The same frequencies we used to keep it uncomfortable, but stronger, concentrated. The old neutron lab, Gordon said suddenly. Level 7. It's decommissioned, but the equipment is still there. Particle accelerators, magnetic containment fields, and, yeah, infrasound generators, experimental stuff, military grade. Can it generate enough to contain the creature? If we reroute power from the main grid, boost the output to maximum, maybe, it might kill it, it might just piss it off, but it's the best chance we've got. Then that's the plan, I said. We lure the creature to level 7, we trap it in the neutron lab, we hit it with everything we've got. And how do we lure it? Martinez asked. It's not like we can just call it and ask it to come to dinner. It wants me, I said. It's been saying so since I arrived. I'm the key. I'm the one who understands. That's suicide, Leon said. Probably, I smiled, and it felt strange on my face, but it's better than waiting here to die. We moved out in pairs, spreading through the facility to gather supplies and equipment. Leon and I took the lower levels, heading for the maintenance tunnels that led to the excavation site. You're really going to do this? She asked as we walked. Sacrifice yourself. I'm not planning to die. I'm planning to survive, but if that's what it takes, I shrugged. I've spent my whole life studying these things, trying to understand them. If I can use that knowledge to stop this one, to save even a few people, that's worth something, isn't it? It's worth everything, she said softly, but I don't want you to die. I don't want to die either. I took her hand. Come on, let's find this cavern. The maintenance tunnels were darker than I remembered. The emergency lighting had failed here, leaving only our flashlights to cut through the darkness. We walked for what felt like hours, following paths that seemed to shift and change behind us. This isn't right, Leon said. We should have reached the platform by now. The tunnels are changing. I remembered Raj's words. The mountain is hollow, the hungry place. It's leading us somewhere, showing us something. Or something is leading us. We turned a corner and found ourselves at the platform, but it was different now. The concrete wall that had hidden the passage was gone, replaced by an archway of carved stone that looked ancient, impossibly ancient. Beyond the archway, stairs descended into darkness. We shouldn't go down there, Leon whispered. We have to. We need to see what's there, what the creature is trying to reach. Melvin, please, this is wrong. This is all wrong. I know. I stepped through the archway. That's why we have to understand it. The stairs went down forever. We descended for what felt like hours, the air growing colder, the darkness growing thicker, the smell of copper and wet earth becoming almost solid. And then suddenly, we reached the bottom. The cavern was vast, vaster than I had imagined. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above, and the floor stretched away in all directions, lost in shadow. But it wasn't empty. In the center of the cavern, surrounded by a circle of carved stones, was a door. Not a door made of wood or metal or stone. A door made of light, or darkness, or something in between. It shimmered and shifted, showing glimpses of things beyond. A landscape of jagged peaks, a sky of bruised colors, shapes moving in the distance that hurt to look at. "What is that?" Leon breathed. "A way through," I said. "A door between worlds. This is where the creature came from. This is where it wants to go back to." "And the others, the Wendigos, the skinwalkers, all the things you studied. Refugees, prisoners, things that got trapped here and want to go home." I stepped toward the door, feeling its pull, its promise. "The creature isn't evil, Leon, it's just lost, alone, trying to find its way back. It killed 50 people. Because we tried to stop it. Because we treated it like an animal, a specimen, a curiosity. Because we forgot that it was a person once, a human being, before it was changed, before it was sent here." "How do you know that?" "Because it's telling me." I realized that the voice I'd been hearing wasn't just in my dreams. It was here now, whispering from the door itself. It's been telling me since I arrived, showing me. The Wendigo was a man once, a hunter. He found a door like this in a different place, a different time. He stepped through, and he became this, a messenger, a scout, a key. "Melvin, step back, please." "I can't." I was close to the door now, close enough to touch it. "Don't you see? This is what I've been looking for, proof, validation, the thing that will make them believe." "Make who believe?" "Everyone, the world, the people who laughed at me, fired me, called me a crackpot." I reached out, my hand trembling. "This is the truth, Leon. This is what's real." "Melvin, no." But I was already touching the door, and the door was opening, and something was reaching through from the other side. The last thing I saw was Leon's face, twisted in horror, as the light from the door consumed me. Then everything went white. Chapter 4: The Hollow. I was falling. Not through air, not through water, but through something else. A medium that had no name, no properties I could understand. Colors streamed past me, colors that didn't exist in the normal spectrum, that hurt my eyes and my mind and my soul. Sounds echoed around me, voices speaking in languages that predated human speech, concepts that couldn't be translated into words. And then I stopped. I was standing in a landscape that shouldn't exist. The ground beneath my feet was solid but yielding like flesh. The sky above was a bruised purple, shot through with veins of black. In the distance, mountains rose, not the mountains of earth, but something else, something alive, something that breathed and pulsed and watched. "Welcome, Dr. Odling." I turned. The Wendigo stood behind me, but it was different now. Smaller, more human. The antlers were gone, the elongated limbs reduced to normal proportions. It looked like a man, emaciated, scarred, ancient, but a man. "Where am I?" "Between, the place where doors lead, the space between your world and mine." It smiled, and the smile was sad, weary. "You shouldn't have touched the door, Dr. Odling. You weren't ready." "What is this place?" "A prison, a trap, a hunting ground." It gestured at the landscape around us. "My people, my kind, we were sent here long ago, exiled, cast out. We found your world, found the doors that led to it, and we tried to make a home there. But your kind feared us, hunted us, locked us away in stories, in legends, in the spaces between what you call real. The Wendigo, the skinwalkers, the dogmen. Names you gave us, masks we wore to hide what we really are." It stepped closer, and I saw that its eyes were human, brown, warm, filled with a sorrow that spanned centuries. "We were like you once, explorers, scientists. We found the doors, the spaces between worlds, and we stepped through. But the journey changed us, made us into something else, something that could survive here in the between. And now you want to go home." "We can't. The doors only open one way. Once you step through, you can't go back." It looked at the purple sky, the pulsing mountains. "I've been searching for another way, a door that leads home. The mountain, your mountain, it was built on a weak spot, a place where the walls between worlds are thin, I thought. I thought if I could open it wide enough, I could squeeze through, go home. But you killed people, you tore them apart." I fed. The voice was flat, matter of fact. This form, the Wendigo form, it needs to feed, needs the energy of living things to sustain itself. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't choose it, but I had to survive. I had to keep searching. And the others, the people at the facility, the soldiers, the technicians, the researchers, they were in my way. It turned to look at me, and its eyes were hard now, desperate. Don't you understand? I've been trapped here for centuries. Centuries of hiding, of hunting, of being hunted. I found the door in the mountain, found the facility your people built on top of it. I let myself be captured, let myself be studied, because I needed to understand your technology, your security, your weaknesses. I needed to know how to open the door. And did you learn how? I learned that I can't open it alone. I need help. I need someone from the other side, someone who can turn the key from your world while I push from mine. It reached out, took my hand. Its skin was cold, so cold. That's why I called you here, Dr. Odling. That's why I spoke your name. I need you to help me. I need you to open the door. And if I refuse, then you stay here with me in the between forever. I looked around at the impossible landscape, the pulsing mountains, the bruised sky. I thought of Leon, of Hargrove, of Cole and Raj and all the others. I thought of the world I'd left behind, flawed, limited, but real, human. What happens if I help you, if I open the door? You go home, I go, somewhere else, somewhere that isn't here, somewhere I can rest. And the door, what happens to it? It stays open. The Wendigo, the man smiled sadly. Others will come through, my kind, other exiles, other refugees. Your world will change, Dr. Odling. It will become more like this place, more like the between. That's what you want, to transform our world. I want to go home. It gripped my hand tighter. The rest is consequence, unavoidable but not malicious. I pulled my hand free. I can't open that door. I can't let more of you through. Then you stay here. The man's form began to shift, to change. The antlers sprouted from his skull, his limbs elongated, his skin stretched tight over growing bone. You stay here and you become like me, a monster, a hunter, a Wendigo. No. Yes. The creature loomed over me now, 7 feet tall, antlers scraping the bruised sky. You touched the door, Dr. Odling. You stepped through. The change has already begun. Look at your hands. I looked down. My hands were changing. The skin was tightening, pulling back from the knuckles. My fingers were lengthening, the joints swelling. I could feel the antlers pushing against my skull, trying to break through. No, I whispered. No, this isn't real. This isn't happening. It's real, it's happening, and only I can stop it. The Wendigo leaned down, its face inches from mine. Help me open the door and I'll reverse the change. Send you back to your world as you were. Refuse and you become my successor. The new Wendigo, the new prisoner in the between. I closed my eyes. I thought of my life, the failures, the disappointments, the loneliness. I thought of my research, my theories, the paper that had gotten me fired. I thought of the moment I'd touched the door, the moment I'd chosen curiosity over caution. There's always a choice, I said. What? You said I have a choice, stand with you or stand in your way. I opened my eyes. I choose neither. I choose to close the door. You can't, it's already opening. Then I'll close it from the other side. I ran. Not away from the Wendigo, toward it. I charged at the creature, ducking under its reaching arms, dodging its antlers. I ran past it, toward the shimmering light in the distance that I somehow knew was the door back to my world. No, the Wendigo screamed. You can't, you'll be trapped, you'll die. Better to die human than live as a monster. I reached the door. I could see through it, see the cavern, the carved stones, Leon's face still twisted in horror. I could feel the pull of my world, the gravity of reality, the warmth of the life I'd left behind. I stepped through. The transition was agony. Every cell in my body screamed as it was pulled from the between and forced back into three-dimensional space. I felt the change reversing, the antlers retracting, the skin loosening, the bones shrinking back to human proportions. I fell to the floor of the cavern, gasping, shaking, human again. Melvin, Leon was beside me, her hands on my shoulders, her face wet with tears. "You're back, you're alive, I thought. I thought you were gone." "The door," I panted. "We have to close it now before it follows." "How?" "The stones." I pointed at the circle of carved rocks. "They're the key. They're what's keeping it open. We have to disrupt the pattern." "But the creature is coming." I could feel it, feel its presence pressing against the door, trying to force its way through. "Hurry." We ran to the circle. The stones were carved with symbols, spirals, jagged lines, patterns that hurt to look at. I grabbed the nearest one and pulled. It wouldn't move. It was anchored to the floor, part of the stone itself. "It's fused," Leon said. "We can't move them." "Then we destroy them." I looked around, desperate. The infrasound, the neutron lab, if we can generate enough vibration, enough resonance. It could collapse the cavern, bury us all. Better than letting that thing through. I took her hand. "Come on, we have to get to level 7. We ran back up the stairs, through the archway into the maintenance tunnels. The facility was silent now. No alarms, no screams, no gunfire. Just the hum of failing systems and the smell of blood. We reached level 7 and found the others. Gordon had managed to get the neutron lab operational. The infrasound generators were warming up, their low-frequency vibrations already making my teeth ache. "It's ready," he said, "but we need to lure the creature here. It won't come on its own." "It'll come," I said. "It's following me. It needs me to open the door from this side." "Then what? We hit it with the infrasound and hope it dies." We hit it with everything. Infrasound, magnetic fields, particle beams. We overload the systems, create a resonance cascade that collapses the cavern and seals the door permanently. And us. We run before the cascade starts. We get to the surface, call for extraction, and never look back. "Extraction isn't coming," Cole said. He was sitting in the corner, his blind eye weeping black fluid. "I tried the radio. We're on our own." Then we walk out, through the emergency tunnels. There's a path to the surface. I saw it on the schematics. "The creature knows the tunnels," Leon said. "It'll be waiting." "Then we don't give it time to wait." I looked at each of them in turn, 7 survivors, scared, injured, but alive. "We move now, fast and quiet. We get to the surface, then we trigger the cascade remotely." "Remotely how?" Gordon asked. "I'll stay behind." "No," Leon grabbed my arm. "No, Melvin, you can't." "I have to. Someone needs to trigger the systems. Someone needs to make sure the creature doesn't escape before the cascade hits." "Then I'll stay with you." "No," I took her face in my hands. "You need to lead them out. You're the only one who knows the way, the only one who can get them to safety." "I can't lose you, not after everything." "You won't lose me," I kissed her forehead. "I'll be right behind you, I promise." It was a lie, we both knew it, but she nodded anyway, tears streaming down her face. "Go," I said, "now." They left. Leon last, looking back at me with eyes full of fear and love and grief. Then they were gone, and I was alone in the neutron lab with the humming generators and the weight of what I had to do. I didn't have to wait long. The Wendigo came through the door. Not the door to the between, the door to the lab. It had found another way up, another path through the facility. It was still in its true form, the emaciated monster with antlers and claws and 2 human eyes. "Dr. Odling," it said, its voice carrying the harmonics of the between. "You came back. I didn't expect that." "I had to. This is where I belong." "This is where you'll die." It stepped into the room, its claws clicking on the floor. "You could have helped me, could have opened the door. Instead, you chose to close it, to trap me here, to trap yourself." "I chose to protect my world, my people." "Your people fear you, they fired you, they laughed at you, they called you crazy." The Wendigo circled me, antlers scraping the ceiling. I offered you truth, validation, purpose, and you threw it away. You offered me monstrosity. I chose humanity. Humanity is overrated. It lunged. I triggered the infrasound. The generators screamed to life, pumping out frequencies that vibrated every bone in my body. The Wendigo staggered, its claws going to its ears, its mouth opening in a scream that I couldn't hear. "You think this will stop me?" it shrieked. "I've survived worse. I've survived centuries." "Not this," I said, and triggered the magnetic containment field. The room filled with invisible force, pinning the Wendigo in place. It struggled, clawing at the air, its antlers thrashing, but it couldn't move. The field held it, compressed it, crushed it. "Now," I whispered, and activated the particle accelerator. The beam hit the Wendigo dead center. It shouldn't have worked. The creature wasn't matter as we understood it, wasn't bound by the laws of physics. But the beam wasn't just particles. It was concentrated reality, focused existence, the fundamental force of the universe itself. The Wendigo screamed, really screamed, not the mimicry of human pain but genuine agony, genuine terror. Its form began to destabilize, the antlers cracking, the skin peeling, the bones visible beneath. "What are you doing?" it howled. "What is this?" "Science," I said. "Real science. The kind that doesn't care about your legends or your magic, the kind that just works." "You'll kill us both," the cascade. "I know." I triggered the final sequence. The generators overloaded. The magnetic field collapsed inward. The particle beam intensified, becoming a spear of light that pinned the Wendigo to the floor. And beneath us in the cavern, the resonance began. I could feel it through the floor, through my bones, through my soul. The stones were vibrating, the symbols glowing, the door to the between shaking as something on the other side tried to force it open. "No," the Wendigo screamed. "You can't, you'll seal us all in." "That's the point." The cascade hit. It was like being inside a bell when it rings. The sound, if you could call it sound, filled every space, every gap, every moment. The Wendigo's form dissolved, becoming mist, becoming memory, becoming nothing. And the door closed. I saw it happen, saw the light fade, the symbols crack, the archway collapse in on itself. The between was sealed. The hungry mountain was satisfied. Then the ceiling fell. I don't remember the impact. I don't remember the pain. I remember only darkness and silence and the feeling of falling one last time. Then nothing. I woke to light, harsh artificial light, the smell of antiseptic, the beep of machines. "He's awake, Dr. Odling, can you hear me?" I opened my eyes. A face swam into focus, a doctor, young, concerned. Behind her I could see the familiar shapes of a hospital room, windows, sunlight, the world above. "Where?" "You're in a military hospital in Cheyenne. You've been unconscious for 3 days. The facility, the others, Leon. Dr. Nguyen is fine. She led 6 survivors to the surface. They're all being treated for exposure and trauma." 6, there were 7. The doctor's expression flickered. "I'm sorry, Sergeant Cole didn't make it. He stayed behind to hold off the collapse. He saved the others." I closed my eyes. Cole, the man with the mismatched pupils, the man who'd seen too much. He'd stayed behind. He'd sacrificed himself. And the creature? Gone, buried under 2,000 feet of rock. The facility collapsed completely. Nothing survived. Nothing. Nothing we could find. I opened my eyes again. I need to speak to someone, Commander Hargrove, the military, someone in charge. Commander Hargrove is dead. He was found in the facility, killed by the creature. Then who's running the cleanup? General McAllister, Office of Scientific Research and Development. He's been waiting to speak with you. Then bring him in. They brought him in an hour later. A tall man, gray-haired, with the bearing of someone who'd spent his life giving orders and having them obeyed. He sat by my bed and looked at me with eyes that had seen too many secrets. "Dr. Odling, I'm glad you're alive." "I'm glad someone is, sir. I need to tell you what happened, what we found, the door between the creature's true nature." "I know," he held up a hand. "Dr. Nguyen has already briefed us. The sealed cavern, the dimensional weak point, the creature's origin, we know." "Then you understand. There are more of them, more doors, more weak points. This isn't over." "We know that too." He leaned forward. "That's why I'm here, Dr. Odling, to make you an offer." "What kind of offer?" "A job, a continuation of your research, but officially this time, funded, supported, protected." "Doing what?" "Finding the other doors, the other weak points, the other creatures, and figuring out how to seal them, permanently." I stared at him. "You want me to hunt monsters?" "We want you to understand them, to predict them, to control them. The way you controlled the Wendigo." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You have a gift, Dr. Odling. You see patterns others miss. You understand things that shouldn't be understood. We need that. The world needs that." "And if I refuse?" "Then you go back to your life, your ruined career, your empty apartment, your theories that no one believes." He stood up. "But if you accept, you'll have resources, support, purpose, and maybe, just maybe, you'll prevent what happened at Facility K9 from happening again." I looked at the ceiling. I thought about the between, the purple sky, the pulsing mountains. I thought about the Wendigo's eyes, human and desperate. I thought about the door, still closed, still waiting, still hungry. "There's a condition," I said. "Name it." "Lian, Dr. Nguyen. She stays with me. Whatever team you assemble, she's part of it." "Done." "And we do this my way. No containment, no study. We find the doors and we seal them. We don't try to understand these things. We don't try to communicate. We just end them." McAllister was silent for a moment. Then, "That's a drastic approach, Dr. Odling. These creatures could teach us so much, about other dimensions, about the nature of reality, about—" "They'll kill us all. That's what they'll teach us, that we're prey, that we're weak, that we don't belong in a universe that has things like them in it." I sat up, ignoring the pain. "I've seen what they do, General. I've seen what they are. And I'm telling you, the only way to survive is to close every door, seal every gap, and pretend none of this ever happened. And if we can't, if the doors keep opening, then we fight." I met his eyes. "We fight and we die, and we hope that someone someday figures out how to close them for good." He studied me for a long moment, then he nodded. "Welcome to the real war, Dr. Odling." They released me from the hospital a week later. Lian was waiting in the parking lot, her eyes shadowed, her hands still twisting her wedding ring. "You came back," she said. "I promised." "You lied. You weren't behind me. You were buried under a mountain." "And yet here I am." I took her hand, stopped her from twisting the ring. "I'm here, Lian. I'm real. I'm alive." "For how long?" She looked at me, and I saw the fear in her eyes. "They want us to keep working, to find more of these things, more doors. How long until one of them kills us? How long until we end up like Raj, like Hargrove, like all the others?" "I don't know." I pulled her close, felt her shaking. "But I know this, we're not alone anymore. We have each other. We have a purpose. And we have a chance to make sure that what happened at Facility K9 never happens again." "You really believe that?" "I have to." I kissed her forehead. "Come on, let's go home." But home wasn't home anymore. Home was a safe house in Virginia, a new identity, a new life built on the ruins of the old one. Home was a team of misfits and survivors, people who'd seen the darkness and chosen to fight it rather than hide. Home was the war. We started immediately. McAllister gave us files, dozens of them, hundreds, sightings from around the world, strange creatures in remote locations, doors that shouldn't exist, weak points in the fabric of reality. We studied them, we planned, we prepared. And 3 months after Facility K9, we went on our first mission. It was in the Ozarks, a creature that walked like a man but wasn't a man, a creature that tore apart a SWAT team and left no survivors. They called it the Dogman. We called it the next target. I stood in the woods, silver bullets in my gun, Leon at my side, the rest of the team spread through the trees around us. The moon was full, the shadows deep, the silence absolute. "You ready?" Leon asked. "No," I checked my weapon, "but I'm here, that's what matters." "What do you think it wants?" The Dogman, like the Wendigo, wanted to go home. "I don't know and I don't care." I raised my voice, called into the darkness. "This ends tonight." A howl answered, inhuman, hungry, close. "Here we go," Leon whispered. "Here we go," I agreed. And the darkness moved. Epilogue: the journal. I write this now, months later, from another safe house, another temporary home. The Dogman is dead, sealed in a cave collapse like the Wendigo before it. We've killed 3 more since then. A skinwalker in New Mexico, a nightcrawler in Oregon, something in the Florida Everglades that didn't have a name, that shouldn't have existed. We're getting better at this, better at finding them, better at killing them, better at surviving. But they're getting better too, smarter, faster, more aware of us. The war isn't going to end. I understand that now. The doors are opening faster than we can close them. The weak points are spreading. The creatures are coming through in greater numbers, greater variety, greater power. We're losing. Slowly, inevitably, we're losing. But we haven't lost yet. And as long as there's breath in my body, as long as there's silver in my gun, I'll keep fighting. Because I remember the Wendigo's eyes. I remember the between. I remember what waits on the other side of the doors. And I know that if we stop fighting, if we give up, if we let the darkness win, then everything ends. Not just humanity, not just Earth, everything. The hollow mountain taught me that. The hungry mountain. The mountain that wasn't hollow at all, but full of darkness, full of hunger, full of things that want to consume the light. I survived it, I escaped it, I sealed it. But I didn't destroy it. It's still there, buried under rock and time, waiting. The door is closed but not locked. The creature is gone but not dead. The between is sealed but not destroyed. And someday soon, it will open again. When it does, I'll be ready. This is Dr. Melvin Odling, signing off. The mountain isn't hollow. It's hungry. And I'm the only one who knows how to feed it. Thank you for listening to tonight's stories. If you enjoyed them, please leave a like and subscribe.